Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of Past the Future. This is episode 12. This is the show we take a movie 20 years and older and try to pretend that that movie was never made in that time, bring it over to the modern era, and cast it with modern day actors and see how it go from there. My name is Curtis. I am the host of Past the Future. We have a fantabulous cast of judges and debaters. We have Johnny coming back. This time he's our judge, coming back from our Karate Kid episode last week. We have a newcomer. We got Matt coming in as a judge. We have Logan back as a judge. He's going to be a head judge, and I'll be a debater in this episode. We have Jessica as a debater. Uh, had that Jessica Rabbit look going on. We have Erik as our third debater. And we also have Nicole as our fourth judge. Um, well, as you can obviously tell, the movie we're doing today is 1988's Who Framed Roger Rabbit, directed by Robert Zemeckis, released by Touchstone Pictures, aka Disney. Of course, this is a revolutionary movie that came out in the late 80s that it didn't do anything super new. Like the concept of putting live action actors with cartoon characters is nothing new. It was done in stuff like Mary Poppins, Ben Knopfler's Broomstick, Song of the South. There's a Gene Kelly movie where he's tap dancing with Jerry the Mouse. I mean, it's been done a long time ago, but this is the first where you get to see like actual cartoon characters interact in the live action world, be a major part of the story and interacting with humans as we've never seen it. When people saw this movie, their minds were blown. They thought they actually got these cartoon characters out of world of fiction and brought them onto set with the live action actors. I mean, it was a monster hit when it came out. Huge, became a huge pop culture phenomenon. As always, before we get into our debates, we will share our opinions, our brief opinions about the movie. I'll start first. Unlike many of the movies we've done in the past few episodes, where I'm like, I never grew up with this movie, but I get the relevance. I get why so many people like it. This is a movie that I did grow up with, and I do have a personal, special place in my heart. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is obviously probably in my top 20 favorite movies of all time. It's just lovable from beginning to end. From beginning to end, when I watch the movie, I'm just smiling like a dumb kid. Like, I mean, the story is a basic mystery. I mean, it's not that good of a mystery when you think about it. Like, you know who the villain is, obviously, who the villain. But I mean, the concept of bringing cartoon characters into the real life action world, it was just, as a kid watching it was just mind blowing. And every character is memorable. Every character is like, well, from Eddie Valiant to Roger Rabbit to Judge Doom to his weasel henchmen. There's memorable scenes where he puts classic Disney characters and classic Warner Brothers characters together, where Daffy and Donald having that piano duel is one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, where Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny are skydiving and they share the screen together. Like, that is an iconic moment. Um, this movie is also one of the best comedies ever made. Like, it has the mystery, it has that noir kind of feel, but it blends nicely with comedy because of the characters like Roger Rabbit and all of the upper tunes. I mean, the lines are quotable. Like the comedic timing is so on point. I just love this movie. There's no other words I can say to express my love for it. Let's go to Erik. What are your quick thoughts on Roger Rabbit?
It is one of many movies I have grown up with. I felt like Ariel watching that movie. I wanted to be part of that world. I mean, really part of that world. Who wouldn't want to hang out with all those animated characters? And I heard Bob Hoskins, after he took the role, his son wouldn't talk to him for a week because he wouldn't introduce him to all the animated characters, as a joke. Joke taken a little too far. But this was the first. Curtis, you mentioned there's like a lot of movies that have been done where animation live action were melded together. This was the first one I'd ever seen. So seeing that as a little kid was really cool. The only thing that wasn't cool was the fact that Judge Doom terrified me, especially near the end, that when the squeaky voice comes out, my dad's laughing and I'm this little kid that looks horrified from it. And Yeah, so that scared me for a while. But other than that, it has everything you could ask for in a movie: comedy, action, adventure, film noir. I mean, they literally made a cartoon noir film, and it was just really cool that how they were able to blend everything, even all the Maltese Falcon references. It was a cool movie, and I still laugh at that movie today. I watched the movie before we did this, and I'm still laughing at all those jokes, even some of the jokes that Pixar or Disney would probably sneak in there that are considered for adults. There's plenty of them said by Dolores, and it's just a great movie, and I'm glad we're doing this. Thank you for doing this, Curtis.
Just go to your quick thoughts on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
This is one of those movies I'm probably in the minority that I did not see this until later in life. I didn't really grow up watching it, but I knew of it. I knew of the ride at Disneyland. But, getting older and watching films and kind of getting a taste for what I like in a movie, this kind of has a lot of elements that I like. Like, I love a film noir type of movie. I love period pieces, especially set in like the 40s. So having that history element to it was really fun. It was also really interesting to see how, I think this movie came out in 1988. I know it was an 80s movie. Just what they were able to do at that point in time. They don't have the special effects that we do now. They don't have the CGI effects. Like, they had to really incorporate not just a good live action movie and a good animated movie, but they had to kind of work together in the world in a way that was believable. If you have Disney Plus and you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend watching Prop Culture. There's a really great episode on Roger Rabbit and how they did a lot of effects, especially when Eddie and Roger are handcuffed together, because if you watch that scene, you just don't understand, like, we know that the rabbit's not there in real life. How do they make it look like they're actually connected through these handcuffs? So it's a really interesting kind of history lesson with what they had to kind of do back in the 80s, because they don't have the technology we do today. So I like the movie as a whole, but I find it more intriguing when you look at the technical aspect of it. And I think it really kind of opened up doors for how we do special effects or practical effects in the film world today.
Johnny, what are your thoughts on Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Very simply, everybody's saying everything that I would say, but to me, I was 5 years old when this movie came out. I was the perfect demographic for this movie. I had it on VHS, and as Biggie Smalls said, like, I rocked it till my tape popped. Like, I watched it so many times. I let my tape rock till my tape pop on this one, because I just couldn't get over. I knew I wanted to do film as a kid. I knew I wanted to do something visual, and this was the blend of me drawing something on a piece of paper, but then seeing it interact with humans. It was astounding to watch. And back then, we didn't have like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We didn't have something that was fusing everything together, which this super does. So Bugs and Mickey are just basically the Avengers of that time. The fusing of the two worlds. And then not until I got older, till I got my 20s, a little bit before around the time I met you guys, I was getting heavy into Chinatown and noir. That all, started from The Big Lebowski, then The Big Sleep, and then you start delving into this really great storytelling that, just watching it this morning, my God, this noir is on point. Sylvester's score, the shadows and the shades on the animation, it's brilliant. And I think I've heard somewhere that this is in some way, shape, and form maybe a headcanon for some Redditors somewhere, where this is like the sequel to Chinatown. And I could totally see it development in LA. Like, this is such an LA movie. It's a brilliant, brilliant film, and I'm so glad to be a part of this.
How about you, Logan?
When it comes to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, yeah, much like Johnny, I remember watching it over and over again. When I was a kid, it was right at that era when VHS players were put into cars. And I remember that me and my sister were always only allowed like 2 movies to take on that road trip. And one of them was always Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, so we knew that movie cold. And it is kind of awesome that it's a movie that totally works when you're a kid, because you're just loving seeing these cartoons. I don't know about y'all. I was certainly upset they didn't make any Roger Rabbit and Baby Herman cartoons after this movie came out. It would have been the perfect thing.
3 shorts.
Make more. I want more of those things.
Yeah,
I want a whole year of those just to lead into this thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun when you're a kid because you're seeing those details, and then as you get older, like Johnny said, you start seeing these film noir details, and then if you're a big old nerd like I am, it's fun to see where those very mixed genres meet and actually work together, and where they don't, and where when they don't, it's kind of part of the joke. So yeah, this is one of those of all the ones that we've put together for these Cast of the Futures, Curtis, this is easily seemingly the most difficult prospect to have to put together, because this one it's iconic in its own ways, and it's iconic for very unique reasons. So I'll be curious to see what mix is put together.
How about you, Matt? What's your thoughts on Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yeah, this is probably like tied for probably like my number one spot of favorite movie of all time. It's Phantom of the Paradise, Clue, and Roger Rabbit. It's one of those movies where, like, I think if someone ever said, like I just did, like, it's, you know, that's my favorite movie, it's one of those things where you just will not debate them on it. If someone was like, oh, my favorite movie is Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell, you're going to go, okay, bud, but real? But, you know, hey, everybody can like what they like. But I think it's just one of those things where it has everything. There's nothing missing from this movie, and everything feels so organic. Nothing feels shoehorned in. You couldn't take out a single frame of this movie. It's perfect. Yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. It's a perfect movie. I'm so excited to do this. Really excited to see what you guys are bringing to the table. Yeah, Semi-Pro is a deep cut. Thank you.
Lastly, Nicole.
All right. Well, if you know me, then you know me. Then you know how much I love this movie. This is absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. My mom actually would have to hide the VHS tape from me when I was a kid, because I watched it so many times over and over again that she would get sick and tired of it. She would get sick and tired of me quoting it all the time. This movie is very near and dear to my heart, and not to mention it has one of my favorite TV characters of all time ever, which I would hope that people know who that is. But I mean, I dressed up like her for Halloween. I've aspired to be like her. You know, can't get that figure, but who can? But yeah, no, this movie is just, it's excellent. And so this is just going to be extremely interesting to try and sway me to even imagine that it doesn't exist until now. So here's to hoping.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I just want to go back to like how like the movie blends like comedy and mystery and suspense together. Like there's like two scenes that just jumped out to me recently. The first scene is when Eddie is driving into Town, and like through the tunnel, and the music's like suspenseful and build up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you just know like the history of Toontown and Eddie. Like it's a tragic place for him there. Like obviously, but when you think like it's building up to something like probably something scary or horrifying, but when he goes into Toontown, like this bride couple, like smile. I mean, it's hilarious, and then in the end of the movie, when the dip tractor machine thingy drives into Toontown, it's, when you think about it, like the Toontown would never have gotten destroyed because of the timing. That train just comes in and rams the tractor machine. Like, just, it's brilliant. It's like a it's just like a cartoon, like a Tex Avery or Looney Tunes cartoon. It's so brilliant. But with all Cast of the Future episodes, we're going to pretend that Who Framed Roger Rabbit did not release in 1988, but was released in 2020. Despite COVID stuff, we can figure that stuff out later. But yeah, we're going to pretend that Who Framed Roger Rabbit was released today, and what modern day actors would be in this movie. Who would be our Eddie Valiant? Who would voice Roger Rabbit? Who would voice Jessica Rabbit? Who would be Judge Doom? Who would be Dolores? Who would be all these characters? So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. Let's cast the feature. So Logan, go ahead and take it away as our head judge.
Alrighty, well, to start off, we got to start with the rivalry that kind of fuels the entire movie between Marvin Acme and R.K. Maroon. Now, Marvin Acme was originally played by Stubby K. He's a fun-loving and giddy CEO of the Acme Corporation and the mayor of Toontown, who gets caught up in a scandal involving Roger's wife, Jessica, which leads to his demise and being the victim of said murder case that leads to the whole plot of the movie. R.K. Maroon, played by Alan Tilvern, is the studio head of Maroon Studios and Maroon Cartoons, who plays a much bigger role in the mystery than we expect as of the beginning of the film. So, Curtis, who do you think should be playing these two characters?
Okay, so I'm gonna start with R.K. Maroon. So R.K. Maroon, you need like an actor who you believe can be like an old style 1940s movie studio head. Someone who could be like a blend. R.K. Maroon is kind of like a blend of like Jack Warner and Walt Disney. Has that like that quick-witted, no nonsense, fast talking dealer type of guy, but at the same time he has like the heart of a child. Like he has a deep love for the two characters. That's kind of like the Walt Disney side of R.K. Maroon. So I think the perfect person for that who could play that is J.K. Simmons. Now, of course, you know J.K. Simmons from his Oscar-winning performance in movies like Whiplash. He's done a lot of voiceover work. Like he's the yellow M&M. He was in Juno. A lot of movies you name off he was in, and of course most of us know him as J. Jonah Jameson from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and that's where I'm kind of leaning off of. Like I think he could take a lot of what he brought to playing J. Jonah Jameson and playing R.K. Maroon. A lot of people have said, even though a lot of people have loved Tom Hanks' performance as Walt Disney in Saving Mr. Banks, there are a lot of people who said that should have been J.K. Simmons, because J.K. Simmons, he already has the Walt Disney voice. He already has that sort of 1940s transatlantic Hollywood voice that could easily play someone who's head of a studio. He could be intimidating. He could be demanding, but at the same time, he could be kind of warm. He could be funny. J.K. Simmons can be witty. He's just an all-around actor who just has a lot of range. He has a golden voice. He could just do it all. And as for Marvin Acme, I'm choosing Josh Gad. Now, of course, you know Josh Gad. He's the voice of Olaf the Snowman from Frozen. He's also in other. He was also LeFou in the Beauty and the Beast remake. And a lot of the movies in the past we've done for Cast of the Future, a couple of them like Jaws and Breakfast Club, we said if they were released today, they would probably be indie pictures. Who Framed Roger Rabbit would still be a studio movie because it still has big IP characters involved in it when you're talking about the Looney Tunes and the Disney characters, obviously. And this movie still be under Disney. I don't know with the adult situations and innuendos, I don't know if it would be under Disney or Fox. Maybe still under Disney because Disney, time to time, doesn't mind doing some PG-13 stuff. So, and Disney has a great relationship with Josh Gad. Josh Gad is like a moneymaker for them. Whether you're talking about doing the voice of Olaf Frozen or doing LeFou for Beauty and Beast, and he's going to be LeFou again in a Gaston and LeFou spinoff on Disney Plus called Little Town. So Disney has a lot of faith in Josh Gad. I know though it's a small role, I don't think Josh Gad is the type of actor who wouldn't mind that. I can see Josh Gad being the giddy guy in the Ink and Paint Club, laughing at Daffy and Donald, gazing at Jessica and playing pranks on Eddie Valiant, and with his voice just matches the personality of Marvin Acme. So those are my two choices: Marvin Acme, Josh Gad, R.K. Maroon, J.K. Simmons.
All right, and Erik, who are your choices for Acme and Maroon?
All right. My choice for start with R.K. Maroon is John Goodman. John Goodman is an underappreciated actor. I feel like still has no Oscar nomination yet. That is just an absolute tragedy. He has played a studio head several times, including The Artist and also, I believe, Trumbo. He's a person in a power, or he could be like a person in a power position like Atomic Blonde, Patriots Day, The West Wing, Red State, Princess and the Frog, Emperor's New Groove. He ran a village in that. He reminds me of Steve Buscemi. He'll challenge himself as an actor, but then he'll make time to work with friends like the Coen brothers, or with Steve Buscemi's case, Adam Sandler, or same thing with Steve Buscemi and the Coen brothers. He's not an actor that like really gets tired of playing the same type of role. He's playing Dan Connor all over again. He played Sully again in Monsters University. his list of credits is 162. He can literally do anything. He can be scary beyond belief in Barton Fink, or over the top and absolutely hilarious in The Big Lebowski. Or if you just want to laugh, like watch him in Argo or, again, The Big Lebowski. He's not a poster boy. He's a hardworking actor that everyone knows, and he'll star in a movie or TV show while taking on the small roles. This isn't a big role, but he'll still put in a memorable performance as R.K. Maroon and just step into the role like it's nothing. My choice for Marvin Acme is William Shatner. This is more of like a glorified cameo, in my opinion, for him, because like Marvin Acme does not have a big role, but he's memorable, especially he's part of it. He has over 243 credits in his filmography. We all know who he is. He's a legend, and in this movie, so is Marvin Acme. Like Acme, like he owns a big time company, and Shatner would just have a really fun time being in that position at 88 years old. It's not a big role, but Shatner will have fun with it. And like you've seen him have fun, or the way he thinks is having fun, like we talked about the other day, Logan, when he did Rocket Man, or Stewie doing Rocket Man. Very similar, but he'll do a cameo. Like my favorite cameo of his was in Fanboys, when he played himself, giving them inside information on Star Wars. But he's also an Emmy award-winning actor, too, for playing the same character on 2 different shows, Boston Legal and Private Practice. And his role in this is a jokester. I think how could he not have fun with that? So those are my choices: William Shatner for Marvin Acme and John Goodman, R.K. Maroon.
All right. And Jess, who were your choices for Acme and Maroon?
All right, so before I get into my choices, I do want to be very transparent and upfront. 99% of the credit for these choices goes to Charlie Rosenman. The reason why I decided to keep most of his choices when I stepped in as a debater is because I really believed in a lot of them would be really good choices. So I just want to make sure that he's getting the credit where it's due. But the choices for Marvin Acme and R.K. Maroon, Nathan Fillion. He's probably best known from projects like Firefly, Serenity. He's also on The Rookie now. But he's also done a lot of voiceover work in different projects, such as video games, as well as animated movies. So he is a very talented voice actor. And the reason why I think he'd be a good pick for R.K. Maroon, Nathan Fillion has a tendency of, when he portrays not necessarily good guys, but not bad guys, he's kind of in that middle round where he's just kind of a jerk. He plays those really well. And examples for that would be his role in the Santa Clarita Diet that was on Netflix. Also, if you looked at him in Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog with Neil Patrick Harris, where it's like, yes, even then he's the good guy, but he's such a jerk, you don't root for him. And R.K. Maroon's just one of those ones of, he has that fiery temper. He's the head of a studio, so you already just kind of have that little subtext of you just don't like him. You know that there's something a little weird about it. And I think that he could play that really well. The choice for Marvin Acme is the incomparable Henry Winkler. You probably know him as the Fonz from Happy Days. He was also in things like The Water Boy, Click. He's done a ton of supporting roles in things like Arrested Development. So he does really, really well in comedies. And kind of going off what Erik said, Marvin Acme, this is one that kind of reminds me nowadays in 2020 would be a great throwback cameo, because the role is so small. It's very, very goofy. It's very just kind of exuding happiness and prankster spirit. And Henry Winkler just kind of has that. If you think back to 1996's Scream, he's the principal of the school. And yeah, he's kind of a jerk, but he has some really killer lines and different things that he does. And then he has a great death scene in it. So I feel like he really kind of embodied that spirit of being the older prankster that means well, that how can you be mad at him? Especially when he gets Eddie with the disappearing ink. It's kind of like, oh, like that wasn't fun, but you're the Fonz. How can I be mad at you? So yeah, my choices for that are Nathan Fillion and Henry Winkler.
All right. Well, debaters, hash it out.
Oh my God, your choices are awesome. How do I do this?
I will start off just with one concern I might have about Josh Gad. I've loved and adored Josh Gad since the Book of Mormon. The only issue I have, I feel like he's a bit too young to play a Marvin Acme, especially since Marvin Acme is one that, like, he has his last will and testament on him. He's expected to kind of like go at any time. So I feel like if we're comparing it between the three, I feel like it should be Henry or William Shatner just based off of age alone. I could see maybe in 25 years, maybe 30 years, Josh Gad doing it. I just
an
think right
old-fashioned
now
prankster.
he's so baby-faced
Yeah.
and he's so sweet that even if we put him in old age makeup, I feel like it would be a lot of time and a lot of money spent on making him look older when we could be giving it to an older actor.
I just
Mhm.
I just see the whole like Last Will and Last Will and Testament thing as a little bit of him being around Toons a lot. I mean, like when you watch a lot of old, like maybe like Looney Tunes cartoons, maybe Tom and Jerry cartoons, maybe just a Mandela effect to me. I don't know, but I recall like if like any of those stories of like a character they think they're about to die, like they quickly write out a Last Will and Testament. And I think that's just him. That's just his like his tune lovable side. I don't think that has to do with like how old he is or he knows he's gonna die really soon.
It's like a cartoon character at the end.
With something with a person like William Shatner, I think you could probably argue that maybe there's not a lot of young people who know William Shatner is, but I feel like if you put William Shatner in there, even though it is a small role, I just feel it would be, as much as I like him, it would be a bit distracting. If I'm gonna be honest, like if I see William Shatner there, I know he's done roles where you absolutely take him seriously, like and he's legit. But if I see him now, I'm gonna think that Kaylee Cuoco's gonna pop up at any moment, and they're both concerned. I mean,
I'm sorry.
If his name wasn't mentioned so many times throughout the movie, it's like I feel like any William Shatner, if he ever died in like anything, you would still like his name would be mentioned throughout the movie. This is the character that it's like he is the focus. So I feel like since William Shatner is like so used to being on the spotlight, even after death, the spotlight will still be on him, which I think he'd make it even more fun for him.
There's a part of me, like I adore William Shatner, but I think I adore him for different reasons than most people do. I will be honest, like I have never seen him do Star Trek or anything like that. Growing up, he was always the one of like, we used to play a game in high school called Shatnering, where it's like someone would yell Shatner and then you overact and overdo everything you do. That I feel like with a role like this, you do need to be goofy and a little bit out there, but William Shatner might do it a bit too much, where you're just like, okay.
Yeah,
You're okay.
and I also want to go back to there's a line that that R.K. Maroon says about Marvin Acme when they gave Roger Rabbit the patty cake pictures, and R.K. Maroon says something along like but Marvin Acme has been my friend and neighbor for so how many years? Who knew he was a sugar daddy? And that's that line I think would marinate better if it was someone like a Josh Gad, because you see Josh Gad, he's so like lovable, he's so peppy, he has a lot of energy. Like just watch him doing his doing that series of videos he did, the Reunited Apart videos, when he reunited the cast of Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Lord of the Rings on Zoom, and they talk to each other. Whenever he's interviewing those actors, he just has a lot of energy, just has a lot of joy in his heart, just talking to these people. I mean, like he has the title to be working with these people in the near future anyway, but he's still excited and talking about them. He's still a fan, as a big of a fanboy, and as much as we are fans of those other people. And I think with Josh Gad, he's already, you could tell he's probably already a fan of these old cartoons. Probably grew up watching cartoons like Looney Tunes and the Disney cartoons. And so
I feel like in that case, he would want to probably go for Eddie Valiant.
I could see that actually.
Yeah. I feel like he would want to be more in that case.
I can't see him as Eddie Valiant
with the animated characters.
I can't see him as like the gruff, private eye gumshoe who has a prejudice for tunes, who has this like tough exterior.
He gets to do a combination of it, but he gets to work his way into the fun Josh Gad.
I mean, like we're talking about.
I feel like it would be a challenge for him in the beginning, but I think he would find a way to make it work. He's been in dramas before.
And he does a great
he's very
job
good
in
at
dramas.
I mean, I have no doubts about that, but we're talking about like how like we're not really adapting the character we're taking that same character the same way they wrote it and try to fit it with an actor and try to see if they can perform it just the same way as those original actors did. And I don't think Josh Gad like could bring to Eddie Valiant what Bob Hoskins did.
Well, with RK Maroon though, like he said, how long did he say he was friends with Marvin Acme?
Some number. I can't.
If it's a really high number, it's probably close to Josh Gad's age. So if he was friends with him as a baby, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, well, and kind of going off what you're saying, Erik, like I feel like I remember it being a higher number because the guys both of them had just been in the business for so long.
Yeah, they look like those two guys from
That's
Disney.
where the age does kind of come into play because it's like like you said, like I could totally see Josh Gad in a role like Marvin Acme, but I can see it when he's in his 60s or his 70s, not right now when he's only in his 40s or 50s. I think he's only in his 40s. Yeah. And that's where it's just kind of like, okay, I've known him for like 25, 30 years. I'm like, cool. So you've known him since he was 5 years old because he just, again, he has that energy and he also just, he has a younger look to him. He still has like the round baby face when I look at him. And I feel like it would just be hard to believe that he's been in the business for so long and made all these connections.
Unless he has Paul Rudd's aging patient or something.
I mean, when I see Marvin Acme, when he's in the Ink Pink Club watching Bugs and Daffy, not Bugs, Daffy and Donald do their thing, I just picture Josh Gad there sitting at the table, like doing his Olaf laugh.
Thank you.
Just laughing up a storm in that same club and just having a good time and playing like the invisible ink prank on Eddie. That's just like a total Josh Gad vibes that I get from Marvin Acme whenever I see him do that. And then we haven't really talked about RK Maroon in just yet. Choices like John Good. Erik, who was your choice again? For RK Maroon, Erik.
Yeah, mine was John Goodman.
John Goodman. John Goodman. Oh, John Goodman needs a Fillion. Okay, and now.
Yeah. All of our actors are spot on. We could see all three of them in this role, especially Nathan Fillion. That was Charlie's choice.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. So is J.K. Simmons. It's like all of them would take it on.
All three of them are great. And the thing that makes a debate like this so difficult is that all three of them are great. And I feel like any one of these three could play the role and do it justice because they're all so talented and they can really disappear into that role.
And they're not poster boys.
I could probably do see John Goodman, but like Nathan Fillion, I don't know. To me, it's kind of the same argument you guys are making about Josh Gad. He still looks a little bit young, Nathan Fillion. Like when RK Maroon has a lot of age to him. He's someone who's probably been through a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that has a gruff exterior, who's a veteran in Hollywood, but still again has that heart of a child, who still has that love for cartoon characters. I think J.K. Simmons is like one of those actors. Like he definitely has a tough exterior, no nonsense type of vibe to him, but he's good at playing good guys as well. He's good at playing people with a heart of gold as well. And it's a voiceover role, but when he played Tenzin in Legend of Korra, who's Aang's dad in the not Aang's son in the show, he's a tough and rough and tough mentor to Korra, but deep down he has a heart of gold. He's caring. J.K. Simmons' voice can range from being cold and sinister and rough, and he could instantly switch it to being warm and being sympathetic. There's scenes in you can go to Whiplash where like a lot of the scenes where he's just chewing out Miles Teller and just being an abusive music teacher. And then there's that great scene where, of course, after he gets fired from the academy, and Miles Teller meets him at that jazz club, and they have that little heart moment because his character was kind of playing Miles Teller the whole time, and you think they're having a moment together, and his voice and his demeanor becomes instantly warmer, like we've never seen that character in the movie before. And that's what you kind of need with R.K. Maroon, because R.K. Maroon just come off as a strict, as this like conniving studio head, but as soon as he's going to get axed, we see a different side of him. We see a side of him that actually cares about the actors that work for him and about the world they come from.
Yeah, I mean, John Goodman's really no different.
I will say,
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that like R.K. Maroon is like, I'm paying you to get pictures of this person. I'm just thinking if it's J.K. Simmons, he wants pictures of Spider-Man, obviously. Like,
Yeah,
it's not Roger Rabbit. He wants pictures of Spider-Man. That's all he wants.
Right, picture of Spider-Man now.
And just kind of like going off, like, yes, I do agree with your point that Nathan Fillion, especially compared to the other two, might look a little younger. But he's really good at playing gruff, and he is really good of acting older. Lest we forget, on The Rookie that he's on right now, he is the oldest cop in the history of the LAPD to be, or in that division, and he kind of is working with ageist stuff there. So he is getting a little older, and it's also one of those things of like, if you just change hairstyle, if you put him in the fashion of the 40s, like what we have, it could fit. And he's just kind of proven with his voice acting, with characters that he's portrayed, that he can play gruff really well, but he can also play soft and lovable really well. But I do understand your point of, especially comparing him to J.K. Simmons and John Goodman, he is a little bit on the younger looking side. And John Goodman, I feel like John Goodman, especially since you brought up the point that, he has portrayed studio heads before in the past, would be a good choice. I don't know if he's still doing the Connors or not. I don't know if that got canceled or
they're back to filming, but it's
are
just,
they filming
in that time though? He's still he makes time to do everything. All of a sudden, John Goodman's there. Like, he'll make a cameo on a show, or he'll be starring in a movie, but he's done it all.
Yeah, well, the only concern I had really
everything.
with that is because he's doing the Connors. A lot of the times when people go to like we saw it with Anna Faris, she went to sitcom work because of the schedule, and it was like something that was a little bit more predictable, I guess, or it was just more of a pattern, or there's a word for it, but I'm forgetting what it is.
It's also but a film,
stability.
But he doesn't really have to worry about like blending too much in with the animated characters. So the extra post work, maybe that one scene with Roger Rabbit and then Dumbo, but I think he can film his scenes pretty quickly and then get right back to doing the content.
The question I have for that is I personally haven't seen him in movies lately. I'm not saying he hasn't done movies. I wasn't sure if that's something that he was doing as of right now in his career.
I think it would be nice just to see him like step into that position of power again and order around whoever he wants to order around and get to have fun with some animated characters. I mean, who knows with today's effects? I mean, how cool that would be.
I just say one last thing about J.K. Simmons. I think as an actor, I think he, out of John Goodman and I think he the most fits in. Like he's from the 40s and he's a studio head from the 40s. I mean, and he has a voice that sounds like it came from 1947 whenever he speaks. I was watching Roger Rabbit earlier this morning. All of R.K. Maroon's lines, I could see J.K. Simmons saying to Eddie Valiant, that's pretty much it.
Still enough. John Goodman though.
Nathan Fillion was on Firefly.
She said it. Okay.
And on that note, all right. What a great first round, everybody. Well, I'll start us off with kind of going through. Curtis, I like the pick of Josh Gad, bringing up that he is very good at playing the giddy. He has lots of humor to him. I do agree with the others that he might be a little bit too young, although there was a movie that he did on Hulu called Little Monsters, I think, with Lupita, where he does stuff that's a little bit older that, I don't know, potentially that being working there might have swayed it a little bit. So for me, it kind of came down to Shatner and Henry Winkler. Jess, you kind of had me for a while with the argument of Henry Winkler with the prankster attitude. Like that is just a big thing with Marvin Acme that I think is important. But then honestly, it was something that Curtis said for Josh Gad, and it was the sugar daddy. And I couldn't not think of William Shatner seductively trying to sing patty cake. And that got way too funny to not want to potentially see on film. So between that and honestly just the fact that Shatner, like, he can go big with a small role, like, you know, just there's a lot of different things. So I think for Acme, I'd have to go with Eric's choice of William Shatner. And then when it goes to R.K. Maroon, again, a lot of these were really good. Jess, I liked your argument that Nathan Fillion is really good at playing like good guys who are bad but not bad, but they're not quite good, and they're like, you know, how they kind of walk that odd fine line of, you know, you never know where they stand, which works for R.K. Maroon throughout the entirety of the movie. I mean, same with John Goodman and J.K. Simmons. All three of these are actors who can kind of play that moral gray area really well. John Goodman being a studio head helped with a lot of the arguments, but it was the scene that Curtis was describing from Whiplash with J.K. Simmons, where he starts all like he's cold and he's very hostile towards Miles Teller, and then all of a sudden in a moment he warms up, and here seeing that and imagining him having that confession to Eddie in the midst of, you know, trying to not die, I could see that coming very beautifully from J.K. Simmons. So for my vote, I would say it is or it'd be Shatner for Acme and J.K. Simmons for Maroon. So let's move on to Matt. Who do you think?
Sure, absolutely. Everybody put up a great fight, great clean fight. Very, very simple. I think no one for Acme, no one had a dang thing against Henry Winkler. I don't think there was there any. I couldn't catch any points of anybody slinging some mud towards that sweet wink.
No.
So, and for that reason, I can 100% see Henry Winkler in this role. So that's why I'm going to be giving it to him. Especially with like when you're talking about like the pad cake scene and being seductive, him on Barry is he's so good. He's just so good trying to catch dates, get the ladies. Fantastic. So absolutely I see that. There was a lot of debate though, however, on Josh Gad being too young for it. Which sure, absolutely as is. But then when we were talking about R.K. Maroon, Nathan Fillion came up, and the thing of, him being too young, well, we can dress him up. We can use things. We can do that kind of came into play, but it didn't come into play so much the Josh Gad thing. So for me, I love Natty Phil. I think we all do. But I don't – there was probably the strongest case against him in this case. However, JK and John Goodman, what a toss-up. Oh, my gosh. Both fantastic. I think I'm going to give it probably to J.K. Simmons for this one. Again, I think the flipping is really great. I know he can play both sides. I think he can, when his tie is going to get caught in the projector, I think he can grovel with the best of them. And him saying, him in my head saying, they work for peanuts is absolutely hilarious. So those are my picks, Henry Winkler and J.K. Simmons for this one.
Fair. All right. Well, Nicole, who are you thinking?
All right, I promise I'll turn on my video soon, I swear. Okay, first of all, great job, everybody. Well done. So for Marvin Acme, yeah. So, well, actually, just for Josh Gad and Nathan Fillion in general, while I do agree that, yes, you know, you can dress up both of them, it's hard for me to not get or to have the original film out of my head. So I do see a more aged actor for both of these roles. I really was between William Shatner and Henry Winkler. Erik, did you mention Miss Congeniality? You didn't. Yeah, so if you would have mentioned Miss Congeniality, that would have helped me with that argument, because he did play a very side character He was one of the announcers for the pageant, and he was hysterical in it, but he did not steal the spotlight for that. So, bummer, he didn't mention that. But when it comes to Marvin Acme, I'm going to go with Henry Winkler just because, you know, he is very well-rounded, but I've been seeing him do a lot more comedy stuff here lately. I mean, Jack Horseman, Little Nicky Berry, New Girl even, which I know that wasn't mentioned, so I'm not utilizing that against my argument. So I'm going to go with Henry Winkler for that, just because he is absolutely adorable. And Matt had a great point saying, you know, nobody said anything ill about Henry Winkler because you can't. And then for R.K. Maroon, I could not decide between J.K. Simmons and John Goodman for the longest time. But then I remembered one of the scenes in the movie, Valiant gets really angry at R.K. Maroon, and he just rips him a new one. He pulls down his tie, and I don't think John Goodman can be intimidated by Valiant. You know, the dude is like, I've met John Goodman. He is a lovely person, but he is also, you know, he's very tall, and he's a big dude, you know, like I don't think whoever is cast as Valiant can intimidate John Goodman. But Curtis really had me at his very last point, saying that not only does J.K. Simmons have that very good and bad kind of tone to him, he's got that wholesome feel, but he also has the voice of the 40s, and that was a really good point. So yeah, J.K. Simmons for R.K. Maroon, Henry Winkler for Marvin Acme.
All right, and Johnny, who are you thinking for it?
So, good job, everybody. Good job. Glad to be here. First off, I want to try to keep it as simple as possible and say that if we're looking at Josh Gad, yes, he's too young. He could play dark, like in Little Monsters. He has a great voice. He was particularly good in The Comedian, so he can play sort of that other side of the darker part of Hollywood. But again, I can't see that guy writing a will. With Shatner for Acme, it's a cameo, but it's not a cameo. Like Acme has a little bit more substance than just a quick cameo. He is a legend. He's a sci-fi legend. This might be bringing him into another, you know, genre of legend. So much so that you might be able to swap with that easily. I just think he'd chew up the scene just a little too much. You know, I do see Kelly Cuoco with him, but I don't see. I kind of don't see him as this. So I'm going to have to give it to Henry Winkler. I have to say killer pun, Jessica. And whether it's I have a soft spot or America has a soft spot for the Fonz, you know, you want to side with someone because Acme's more of a victim of circumstance than anything else. You know, him in Arrested Development with the latent homosexual jokes where he just doesn't quite understand what he's into, but he's into it, you know? And I think that's the kind of person who could get mixed up with just having a crush on a lounge singer, you know? And the whole patty cake, it's just, it fits Winkler way more for me. As far as R.K. Maroon, Fillion, yes, America has you know, an affection for Fillion. I do too as well, with like the Uncharted fan film, with everything. Like that guy gives his fans what he wants, but I just don't see the cutoff or the Venn diagram happening for R.K. Maroon. He can play the murky middle ground, but it's a close call. And J.K. Simmons, I can see him demanding pictures, chomping on a cigar, but all I hear is bum, 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 bum. So I would love him, and you know what? Maybe I'm just not putting enough stock in that Whiplash scene. That movie was too brutal for me. Had my heart pumping. I cannot watch that movie like one more time in my life. It's too real. I can't handle that movie. It's one of those gets you going in there. So my vote goes to John Goodman. He's good, man. He is really great, particularly in a very late movie that I super love, 10 Cloverfield Lane, where you're supposed to trust him. Not, maybe you could, maybe you can't. Maybe he's too violent, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, he might be a big guy, but the bigger they come, the harder they fall. And he's just super underrated. And the two things that really got me, that really sold me in my mental memory of it, was Matinee. When he was the filmmaker trying to make the schlocky movie, I could just see him in that era. And then there was this Fisher-Price commercial that he had where he was like, you're now becoming the parent. You're now reliving all these moments. And so he could play the person who runs a studio based off cartoons, and then he could be just as dark when it comes to requiring pictures. So my vote goes to Goodman.
All right. Well, with the votes all tabulated, our casting choice for Marvin Acme is Henry Winkler, and for R.K. Maroon, it is J.K. Simmons. Well, that was a great first round, everybody. So we are going to be moving on now to Dolores, love interest for Eddie. She is played by Joanna Cassidy. She's a bartender, an old friend of Eddie Valiant, as the two share a romantic past. She assists Eddie on the case in the murder of Marvin Acme and with the disappearance of his will. So, Erik, who do you think should play Dolores?
My choice for Dolores is Anne Hathaway. She is an actress in need of a comeback. She's had a couple of movies, but I feel like she can act. She's appeared in a few movies and recently gave a very underrated performance on Amazon Prime's Modern Love. She has turned into a versatile actress over the years, ever since her magnificent performance in Les Mis and way before that. She's a tough talker, like her characters from Get Smart and Dark Knight Rises. Very witty with one-liners, especially with her comedy background in Princess Diaries, Ella Enchanted, and Devil Wears Prada. But she can also do both in the same movie, and one of my favorites with her was Love and Other Drugs. She's not really put into a situation in this movie like Asian 99 or Catwoman where she needs to save the day, but she can be a tough talker and put into a story where she and Valiant can we want them to get together at the end. She can be in a bizarre movie like Colossal, so she's not afraid to be in a world like this. She'd fit right in, and I can just see her, even just for a moment, telling that really tragic story about what happened to Eddie Valiant's brother. And she can break down a little bit, and then the scene's over. And she'll snap right out of it and do the next one. So I think she'd be a really good Dolores, Anne Hathaway.
All right. Jess, how about you? Who do you think should be Dolores?
The choice for Dolores is the incomparable Rachel Brosnahan. She's been in projects like The Blacklist, House of Cards, but she's probably most famously known for her role in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. The reason why I thought she would be a good pick for Dolores basically is her portrayal of Midge on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I feel like this is basically her audition for a role like this. She plays a housewife in the 40s and 50s that's basically having to go out there after her husband leaves her for his secretary, and they have children, so she has to go out there and become a stand-up comedian in a world where women are not seen on stage in that capacity, because she has to find a way to basically provide for her kids since her husband is divorcing and leaving her. We can now see her face. She fits in with this time period seamlessly. She can do the hair, the makeup, the costumes, and she looks like she is from the 40s. And she knows how to play a brassy body broad, meaning that she can hold them with the best of them. She can hold up being the only female bartender in a bar that is currently being frequented more and more often because of what's happening in the development in the Los Angeles area. And she could definitely go toe-to-toe with someone like Judge Doom, Eddie Valiant, and you can see her working in a private detective office like Valiant and Valiant because she just kind of melts into that world. So my choice for that is going to be Rachel Brosnahan.
All right. And Curtis, who is your choice for Dolores?
My choice for Dolores is wonderful Lauren German. Now, if you don't know who Lauren German is, Lauren German plays Detective Chloe Decker on an awesome show called Lucifer, which you could watch on Netflix. Lauren German, she's done a lot of TV. She hasn't done that much movies. I think the only like close big movie that she had a prominent role in was A Walk to Remember with Mandy Moore. She was in that film. But Lauren German has this movie is not only is it a comedy with a lot of cartoon characters, it's also a mystery noir. It's like a procedural, and as we know, Lauren German has a lot of experience being a part of procedurals. Where you're talking about, I think she was in one of those like Chicago shows or like Chicago PD or something like that, and now she's in Lucifer. She has experience in being in a show that has a mystery part of it. And with Dolores, she's a character. She's a no nonsense, doesn't take crap from anybody type of character. But she's also very soft and she's also very warm. And Lauren has already played that type of character with Chloe in Lucifer. Chloe Decker is pretty much the same way. The character, she's no nonsense. She doesn't take crap from Lucifer's character in the early seasons. Anyway, she's strict about her job. She's very determined about what she's doing and what her goals are. But we do see a softer side, a more warmer side of Lauren German's character in Lucifer, and she eventually starts to open up to Lucifer, and she eventually becomes I don't want to use the word vulnerable because I don't want to put her in a light where it's like, oh, she can't take care of herself. She can well take care of herself, but she becomes more open, I should say. And we do see that Dolores becomes more open in Who Framed Roger Rabbit as she becomes a lot closer to Eddie Valiant like they used to be. And I think it would make for a beautiful, lovable romance. So yeah, Lauren German.
All right, well, debaters, debate.
Okay, I will start off with see, I don't know what's my the trouble I have is I haven't seen much of what Rachel Brosnahan has been, and I haven't watched The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel again. I need to.
House of Cards.
I heard it's a really good show.
Yeah.
And I barely watched like the first several episodes of season 1 of House of Cards, so I haven't really seen.
You're not missing much.
With Anne Hathaway, I like Anne Hathaway a lot. I love watching her performance. She's a very, very lovable actress. I mean, she's one of those, like, I don't understand why she gets so much hate.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do people hate her?
I don't know.
She's so great.
Yeah, she's amazing. But I think with Anne Hathaway, with this type of role, I don't think this is a role. Anne Hathaway does take supporting roles, but if Anne Hathaway's going to take a supporting role, it's going to be a supporting role with a lot of prominence, with a lot of meat to it, like her role in Les Mis. She's only in Les Mis for like maybe 5-6 minutes.
15 minutes.
But it's a very memorable role in the movie. And also with Ocean's 8, she's a supporting character in Ocean's 8, but you remember her from Ocean's 8. She's probably the best part of Ocean's 8. And also she did this movie called Dark Waters that came out last year or a couple years ago with Mark Ruffalo. I think it was last year. Again, supporting role in that, but it's a very prominent, important role. She doesn't just play the wife, the main character. She's part of the story. She plays a big part. With Dolores, she plays an important part in the story, but it's not that big of a role. She's more like Eddie's sidekick. I don't think Anne Hathaway would play the sidekick role, if you know what I mean.
I think it's more the dialogue that she's given. I feel like the one-liners that she gets to say, she'd have a lot of fun with that. And you mentioned like no nonsense earlier. This character can be no nonsense. She's played that before in The Intern as kind of like the leader, like CEO of like a small company. But she's also willing to blend into a world. I think it was performance in Colossal where she's like also got like the part person half monster. It's a very weird world, but she blends in so well. And I think also her role, Rachel getting married, she's not afraid to like take all her makeup off and completely transform herself. And if she wants to look beautiful, like all of her costume changes at the Academy Awards, she looked amazing. And I feel she would want to jump at it just for the dialogue and just to be part of like, I mean, she gets to have scenes with Roger Rabbit. I feel like that the fact she gets to talk to a cartoon rabbit and whoever plays Eddie Valiant, and like she'd have fun. I feel like even though it might not be the meatiest role, but it'd be a fun role for her. And like I said earlier, she needs a comeback. Like she just after her role in Modern Love, she's willing to work with like a small cast or an ensemble. But I think this is one of those ensemble movies. I think she would just want to be just part of it.
See, with the one-liners that Dolores says, what makes them so funny is that the Joanna Cassidy, when she delivers them, they're so dry, but they come up. The dryness of the delivery makes it even funnier because it's like it's almost like she had no thought of putting it in for the joke, but it still comes off as really hilarious. And I think if Anne Hathaway says those one-liners, it wouldn't come off that way. It wouldn't come off as that dry. I think she put a little too much effort into the lines, whereas Lauren German, I mean, as when we see her playing Detective Decker in Lucifer, when she has a little zinger, a little joke, she does deliver them kind of dry, which makes you want to laugh at them because they don't have that much effort put into it, but it still makes for a good laugh.
I will say, kind of going off that.
Though.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was like, I still feel like Anne though has the talent to challenge herself, and she's done a lot of different types of comedies and a lot of different types of films. So I feel like if she has to do the dry humor, I feel like she would want to take it on just to be part of this world and to have more fun with it. My problem with like she has the experience, my actress, but my problem with your two actresses, they've spent way more time in television.
But here's the issue. So, like, Curtis, you brought up, like, the one-liners and stuff like that against Anne Hathaway. When you watch Lucifer, Chloe Decker is not the comedic relief. Lucifer is, and she's kind of like the straight man. Yes, my actress has been in TV. I don't see that as a knock, though, because, honestly, people all the time will do movies and TV. And she actually does have a movie coming out next year where she's the lead in it. But with Rachel Brosnahan, she makes her living basically being the star of the show where she is a stand-up comedian in a time period in a world where women are almost less than nothing in comparison to men. So she knows how to go toe-to-toe in a misogynistic society like the 40s in Los Angeles. And she's already proven that she can pull off dry humor. She can pull off those one-liners and have it be believable, and people aren't going to mess with her because she can get stuff done. Yes, a lot of stuff has happened to her, but she goes toe-to-toe with people that underestimate her all the time, which I think is very important for Dolores. It is a supporting role, but she also is kind of what helps propel the case forward when they need it most. And I do somewhat agree with Curtis. I do think that a role like this might be a bit small for an actress like Anne Hathaway because she is an Oscar-winning performer that honestly, a role like this, I could see going to somebody who mostly does television because one, the paycheck won't be nearly as big that they have to dole out for them in comparison to an Oscar-winning film actress. And two, they kind of live in those small roles and they make it their own without stealing the scene or being distracting because we see Mia from Princess Diaries or Fatim from Les Mis playing this smaller role and stealing away focus from the people who are propelling the story forward.
I feel like Rachel, though, I feel like before Mrs. Maisel, I feel like then she would take this role on. Like, she was still, like, working her way up then. But now I just think she's way too big of a star and might want to do, I mean, I'm glad she's doing her leading role. But I feel like this role, I feel like maybe she would have taken it on maybe a couple years ago before Mrs. Maisel. I just think she's gotten a little too big for the part at this point.
I think she would take a role like this over somebody like Anne Hathaway. Because I feel like Anne Hathaway, if you're comparing Anne Hathaway and Rachel Brosnahan, which one is bigger? Which one is more well-known?
Right now, Rachel.
I don't know about that.
I mean, she's
I don't think so.
Anne's been doing some, like, it's when she did Colossal, that was an independent movie, and a couple of other smaller movies. Like, we're really not hearing too much of Anne Hathaway these days. I call post-Oscar syndrome. Sometimes after after people win their Academy Awards, they don't, like, after it says Academy Award winner this person, you don't see them in too much after that.
Well, she also
Sometimes
got married
people
and had a
disappear.
baby, so she's been tied up with
So there's
that
other
too.
reason disappear. But now I feel with like what she's been doing lately, I don't think she would mind this smaller role as long as she gets to be with the cartoons. I feel like she would just want to have fun.
I want to go back to what Jessica said about about Lauren German being not the comic relief of Lucifer. I mean, she's not the main comic relief, but she does have her moments though. There are some moments in the show where she can be funny, and also Dolores is not exactly, even though she has some she has some dry delivery comedic one-liners. She's not the main comedic relief of Roger Rabbit. It's Roger Rabbit who's the main, and the Toons who are the main comic relief of that film. So I can still see Lauren German deliver those the dry comedic one-liners. Like, is that a bunny in your pocket? You're just happy to see me. I think Lauren German can say that line with perfection as much as Joanna Cassidy did in the original film.
I feel like so could Rachel though, and she's done that on
all three of them can.
Her show. Like, honestly, again, they're all actresses who are talented in their own right. I do believe that for a role like this, I think that Anne just might be too big or preoccupied with other things going on, and Lauren, it might not even be that Lauren is not as well known in the comparison of the three. It's just, I don't know. I haven't seen her outside of doing Chloe Decker, so I don't know her body of work of what she could do outside of it.
She hasn't really done too many movies.
What was that? Sorry?
I was like, she hasn't really, I don't know, has she done any films yet?
Not that many. I mean, she's done a lot of TV.
Yeah. And this is just big. I feel like maybe like an independent movie or two, or just some other kind of feature, nothing as challenging as this. I feel like it would be better for her before she would take on this type of role.
I don't even think it would be that challenging. I mean, it's a minor supporting role. I mean, it's not like she's the main lead of this. It's a studio. It would be a studio film still, but it's still a supporting role that you could fit in a TV actress easily.
Well, all right. That was a very, very good round, everybody. Seems like we wrapped up the arguments quite naturally there. Honestly, this is another good one. All three of you presented very, very good points. Curtis, I'll start off with you. I liked all the points that you made about Lauren German, how she does mystery noir very well, but she's good at playing the softness after you get kind of past the hard exterior. Also, how she is very good with the dry line delivery, I think was a good one. With Anne Hathaway, I agree entirely. I don't know why she gets the hate that she does, and I am frustrated with the fact that it was just suddenly hip one day to be like, hey, you know who we don't like? Anne Hathaway. It's like,
right after she won her Oscars, like, let's hate her now.
Yeah. It's just like rude. Like, you know, she had
it started before then. I don't know.
And I liked her after Get Smart. So like I liked that, like really the description for Anne Hathaway, Erik, that I liked was like, she's not afraid to get weird. And like as a kind of description, I was like, you know what? I like that. But then as I started thinking more and more about the character, I was like, but you know who's not weird is Dolores. Dolores as a character, as she is presented kind of in this film, she is stability. She is kind of seeing, for lack of a better word, the harshness of the reality of the time period against the crazy of Toontown. So honestly, a lot of the arguments, Jess, that you were making about Rachel Brosnahan kept coming back to it, how she's good with the period comedy, how she already has that kind of 1940s look that really fits, and especially with the fact that she's doing Miss Maisel, how she already has the experience of, there's a certain cadence to like 1940s speaking that I think she has really well. So I think she would hit those beats in kind of a fun way for Dolores. So yeah, for this one, I would give my vote to Jess for Rachel Brosnahan. All right, so Nicole, who are you thinking?
Alrighty. I just want everyone to know that Joanna Cassidy, the original Dolores, all she did was TV. So Just because someone does TV doesn't mean that they can't do this. So I just wanted to point that out. And then you guys were arguing back and forth about who's bigger, Anne Hathaway or Rachel. I'll tell you right now, I don't think I have seen one single thing that Rachel Brosnahan has ever done. So if I hear the two names, I have to go, who is that? And I immediately know Anne Hathaway because of Love and Other Drugs, Jake Gyllenhaal, the movie with Jason Sudeikis where they tried to really get me to hate him, and then there's so many more. So I would assume that Anne Hathaway, I mean, in my eyes, is bigger, and I think that differs between everybody. Everybody's going to have a different opinion for that. For Lauren German, Logan mentioned the whole 1940s like cadence. No spoilers because they are just started Lucifer, but there is a point where Lauren German has to have that kind of accent. To me, it was not very convincing. I was a little bummed out when she tried to do it, and it didn't sound great. And that, of course, is my own opinion. So for my pick, I'm going to go with, even though I don't know who she is, the argument just seemed to make all the sense in the world. Rachel Brosnahan, she definitely has that look. I've looked her up. I've looked up the things that you all mentioned in here, and that to me, she just looks like a Dolores. So, Rachel.
All right. Johnny, who are you thinking?
Right off the bat, I'm just going to have to say that I'm not as familiar with Laura German's body of work. The transfer of film doesn't seem like a really big deal, especially for Dolores for the scene. And call me a little SJW about it, but I kind of see, from what I've looked up about her, I kind of see her more as a Valiant. I kind of see her more as a gender-swapped Eddie Valiant. So it really came down to Anne Hathaway versus Rachel Brosnahan. And Anne Hathaway, for my money, is too expensive. I have to see Modern Love. I really loved what she did in Love and Other Drugs. And you know, everything that's listed here, but I just don't see that as who Dolores is. She might be, as the kids say, a little extra. You know, I don't know why or how, but it's too much. So that's why I have to give it to Rachel Brosnahan. I just watched an interview while you guys were talking. I'm paying attention, I promise. But I was noticing in her interview with Colbert, the way she carries herself, she's not too demure, but she can really play basically Dolores, this ride or die chick, especially when she has to cut Eddie off. Where's the other $50? I can see that coming out of her performance more than anybody. So I'm gonna have to go with Rachel Brosnahan.
All right. And Matt, who are you thinking?
Gang. What a round. Honestly, this was hard. This was like it truly was. I love all three of these lovely people. Because originally when I saw Anne Hathaway, I am in the cloud of okay, all right. But then Erik, you made that case, and honestly, I was really feeling it. I was really feeling for a while. I was like, yeah, you mentioned Get Smart, you mentioned all these other things. You mentioned the Intern. Mwah, what a nice movie. But I was just listening to it, and I was like, I could totally see this. And Jess came through and just said, Midge is Dolores, and my brain went, yes, she is. So again, Lauren German is fantastic. Also, she's in Hostel 2. Everybody, a great film. Yes, exactly, right? I looked it up before this, and I was like, what else has she done? She's the main person in Hostel 2. So just so we're all aware. But again, yeah, Rachel Brosnahan gets my vote. But great round, everybody. This is fantastic. This is great. This is great.
All right.
You said it, and now I can't unsee it, and I feel so stupid that I did not remember she was in that movie.
I forgot that too.
Yeah, well,
Top
as
bill.
we-
Top bill.
Mind blown right there, man.
Well, if that is the case, then that is a clean sweep across the board for Rachel Brosnahan as Dolores. Very good round. All right. Well,
Just
now
Dolores.
we start moving into, well, let's be real. Those first rounds, they were difficult, but these next rounds are where it starts to get even more difficult. We're moving to one of our big players, starting with Judge Doom, played by Christopher
no.
Logan. Is the very obvious antagonist of the film. He is the mysterious and cold judge of Toontown who somehow has figured out a way of permanently killing a tune by inventing the dip. He also has a background tie ties mysteriously to Eddie Valiant's tragic past. So, Jess, who do you think should be playing Judge Doom?
The choice for Judge Doom is Giancarlo Esposito. In the words of Shakura Brown during our Jumanji debate, need I say more? Is Giancarlo Esposito. Of course, he's known for playing villainous roles like Gus Fring in Breaking Bad. He was also, of course, an antagonist in the first season of The Mandalorian, so he already has a tie to Disney. He also has a tie to Disney from doing a voice for The Jungle Book by Jon Favreau. He just has a great way of playing a villainous role. He has a great look. He can play the darker, more sinister roles, but of course, being that spoiler alert, Judge Doom is a tune, it's also important to have a little bit of a background in comedy, which he has. He literally can do no wrong. He was a little bit more of a comedic role in Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. He was also in Community as Pierce's brother. He also, if you just see him in interviews in real life, he can really just kind of let go and have fun. My personal favorite, of course, he was Lex Luthor in the Harley Quinn series with Kaylee Cuoco, William Shatner's daughter from Priceline, I think it is. So he can really hone in that scary, quiet, sinister kind of bad, but when he needs to be goofy, he can pull it off. So the choice that is presented on my round for Judge Doom is Giancarlo Esposito.
All right. Curtis, who are you thinking?
Okay, so my choice for Judge Doom is going to be Mark Strong, who, I mean, just look at him in Shazam. He's got the Judge Doom vibes locked down already. Yeah. Oh my goodness, yep. This debate brought to you by Netflix and Priceline and Farmers Insurance. Yep. So lot of corporate plugs. Yes, we are corporate shills. Yes. Yeah, Mark. Not only his role in Shazam, where he can come off as very intimidating and have a broad presence. I mean, his role also in Kingsman. Yeah, he was a good guy. He was a hero in Kingsman, the both Kingsman movies, but he still had a lot of mystery to him. He was calm in his demeanor. He had his attitude checked, but with his character in Kingsman, you could tell you don't want to mess with him. As calm as he is, you don't want to mess with him. He could mess you up. And of course, I mean, it's a subpar movie with Green Lantern, but as him as Sinestro, he's probably the best part of that movie until the end credits, where I'm a good guy for 99% of the movie. Oh, now I'm bad because I found his yellow ring. Yeah, but but still he took the role seriously. He played it with a lot of elegance, and he brought a lot of gravitas to the role, as he does with all the roles that he plays. The same thing what Christopher Lloyd did. He had a good relationship with Robert Zemeckis after he did Back to the Future with him, and Christopher Lloyd pretty much took the role of Judge Doom quite seriously, even though there were some funny moments, especially towards the end. He played it chilling, he played it scary, he played it intimidating, especially even when he says his silly freeway monologue, he sounds like an evil mastermind. So yeah, I think Mark Strong could pull that off just as well as Christopher Lloyd did. So my choice is to be Mark Strong.
All right. And Erik, who's your pick?
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a crazy debate. So all of us have chosen like the go-to actors for villains. Here's the other go-to actor for a villain. His name is Ralph Fiennes. For my guy, he played the same villain for about 5 years in the He Who Shall Not Be Named Lord Voldemort. Before that, one of his first roles ever, he scared everybody in Schindler's List. But speaking, he also he can be a voice actor, and one of his best ones was when he played Ramses in Prince of Egypt. And I don't know why he's the evil pharaoh that Jews talk about every Passover. Why does he keep playing Jews who don't like? But he mixed it up for a while with like Quiz Show and English Patient, and then found a way to terrify us once again as the Tooth Fairy and Red Dragon. But he isn't always a scary villain. He can just be an antagonist and have fun with the role, like he did in Wallace and Gromit. Just be the hunter of the Were-Rabbit, have some fun with that. But no matter like what world or whatever movie he's in, he commits 150%. He can be under makeup or a big beard like Hades in Clash of the Titans. But he has the range that is like never too scary to get a role because he embodies every bad guy he plays. Or he can just keep it cool and restrained, kind of like he did in Grand Budapest Hotel, and speak at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That just takes a lot of talent, especially as Shakespeare work. And of course, he's the new M in James Bond. Is there literally anything this guy can't do? Like he won't be too scary for an audition. He just will find ways to entertain us all. And down to pulling off that squeaky voice at the end with "Remember Me, Eddie." I think he just would do a magnificent job pulling that off and entertaining us all.
All right, well, debaters, make your arguments.
Okay, so Mark Strong, he's an amazing actor, but I feel when he auditions for the role, he will pull a Tim Curry, like when he auditioned for the Joker and Batman, and scare all the cast and directors to death.
I think that's what you want, though, right?
Well,
That's kind of what I expect, though.
The only point that I have against Mark Strong for a character like this is that he's one, like when I think of Judge Doom, like he doesn't really get physical until he has to. He has like kind of minions do it for him first. And I feel like Mark Strong from the word go wouldn't really need that. He just kind of gives off like the energy of like, he'll take things by brute force, like, and there's no build up to that. He just goes for it. He was kind of like that in Shazam where he's just like, cool, I have this now I'm doing this. He didn't really have an army of henchmen doing it for him first.
And he's like he wants to do it himself, like he does in that R-rated superhero movie with Aaron Taylor Johnson. Like he would want to do it himself. He'd want to pull the gun out. He would like want to get way more involved than have the weasels. I feel like he wouldn't need the weasels around.
Yeah,
I can see him in the role, like see him like physically playing the role. But it's just, I feel like his voice, I think he'd be way too intimidating. And I don't even know if he can hit those high squeaky notes unless they would have to do some sound editing.
I'll say this about Ray Fiennes. I love Ray Fiennes. He's an amazing actor. Why he doesn't have an Oscar yet, I don't know. But
it's still a mystery.
He is amazing. The thing about, this Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which we're casting, would come out today, 2020. In 2020, we already had Harry Potter. So when people see Ray Fiennes and Judge Doom, I think people are just going to see Voldemort. I think it's going to be kind of distracting to a lot of mainstream audiences because they know Ray Fiennes is Voldemort. In fact, I think most people, unfortunately, just know Ray Fiennes is just Voldemort, not nothing else, not as Eamon Bluff from Schindler's List.
Well, he's been taking on a lot more like heroic roles, so he's been like trying to like be the versatile actor that he can be. But I feel like if this role came to him, it's like, how do I not do this? This is like a blend of like everything he's ever done. He can be scary. He can be funny. He can be over the top. He can just have an absolute blast. Like he just, like many of the actors I've chosen, a lot of us have chosen, they blend into worlds very well. And Ray Fiennes has been in plenty of worlds, plenty of different like magical worlds, or hell, he's been a god. He's been Hades. And like, even though that wasn't the greatest movie, but he had some fun. He got to enjoy himself. I feel like all of our actors would enjoy themselves. It's just Giancarlo Esposito, though. I feel like, I know actors have no problems. I know we've talked about this. Actors have no problems going to movies. I feel like for this, though, as of late, he has been way more comfortable sticking with TV.
No,
I don't think that's true.
I don't think it's him being comfortable with TV. Giancarlo Esposito, I think.
No, it's just like he would rather stay with TV, is what I'm saying.
He's been doing a lot more movies. He's been doing I think he's been doing a mix of the two. And honestly, like picking between the three, like I feel like a lot of the times, especially with actors, sticks to what it knows and what it loves. Giancarlo, in the words of Mugatu, is so hot right now. Like,
Oh yeah, he's hot.
he's
There's no
literally
denying how hot he
everywhere.
is
And
right
just
now.
the fact that he's been in multiple Disney projects like The Jungle Book and The Mandalorian, like, it's kind of like Jon Favreau.
TV.
Like, it's a go-to director. I feel like Giancarlo is a go-to villain for Disney projects.
It's
And
go-to villain in
obviously,
anything,
like,
really.
this would fall under Disney.
Like all of our actors, you can see them physically in the role.
As probably good as what is in Judge Doom, I just think he's gonna be too busy because Giancarlo he's just getting started on the Mandalorian. Like he only
And he's on The Boys too.
But is starting in season 2, he's gonna play a more prominent role on that show. And also and he's more prominent now in The Boys. He's gonna be a big part of The Boys as well.
Another TV role.
I would say that would be more of a problem if he was going to be a character like Eddie Valiant. Judge Doom, yes, is the main villain and antagonist. However, looking at screen time, there's other characters on this list that are in the movie a lot more. That, yes, he might have a very busy schedule being more prominent roles in other projects, but especially if Disney's going to be giving him Disney money, like, he'll be down for it. And with something like this where you get to be a villain and also you get to be a wild, wacky cartoon character, which is, I think, much more in line with who he is just as a person, personality wise, he'd want to do it because, one, it's a change of pace from what he's normally doing, and 2, it's something that he can have fun with and just kind of go over the top with.
Yeah, I feel like Ray Fiennes could do the same thing, but it's like the over the topness. I was wondering, I'm like, what is he gone over the top and isn't villainous role, or isn't like a big role, but was small and fun? Was in Bruges. I think when he was slamming the phone down and doing that over and over again and saying a word I cannot say on this show to his wife, and it was crazy horrible, but he said it, and afterward he is just completely calm. He's like, I'm going. It's like, I'm just going for a little trip. No big deal. And his accent was way different. Like, he can just do multiple accents and have fun with that, but he's willing to hide. He's willing to go underneath all the makeup like he did it in Harry Potter.
I think I want to go back to what Erik. I want to go back to what Erik said about Mark Strong. Like, if you were to audition for this role, and if people be afraid of him, they were comfortable enough putting him in something like Shazam, where for the most part Shazam is like almost like a family-friendly superhero movie with heart
involved in the scariest parts of the movie.
With a lot of laughs as well, and that's the same thing with Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
He was still scary in the movie. I mean, the scenes that he was in was like, I could tell David F. Sandberg definitely did, because the guy was known for horror, so he knew how to scare us. And of course, Mark Strong knows how, but I feel like even in Sherlock Holmes, he was scary as hell in Sherlock Holmes.
That's what you need with Judge Doom. Judge Doom is the killer of our favorite cartoon characters. The scene where he dips the shoe is traumatizing. When he's about to dip,
but I think it also goes.
It's scary, and
oh yeah, he's scary. I'm not saying the character isn't scary, but I think he's too scary. Especially,
well, and it's kind of harkening back to what you're talking about, where Mark Strong might just be scary, but in a brute force kind of way. Like, going back to like Giancarlo, if you look at his role as Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, you throw on a Judge Doom costume, they are very similar in how they handle business, where they don't have to be loud. They don't have to use brute force. They use their just steely presence. And when they're quiet, when they're silent, that's when it's scarier. And then when they do the big things like dipping the shoe in the dip and you see it basically being murdered before your eyes, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this. You believe it coming from someone like Giancarlo, because you can just get this sense of like, when things are quiet and he's not like being loud, angry, that's when you need to be scared, because that's when he's at his most dangerous.
Same thing. Also with Ray Fiennes, it was really his performance, because he didn't have too many lines, but he had enough in Red Dragon, where he was, a lot of it had to do with like his movements and like where he is or like around the room. Like, he is just a scary presence, but also it's like he was willing to put that giant tattoo all the way down his back. Like, he was willing to completely commit to the role. So I feel like all of our actors can commit, but I just think Ray Fiennes can go even further with his commitment. And if he doesn't have to say anything, he needs to be a little like on the quieter side, kind of like the weak Voldemort. But if he wants to go like over the top and have fun, he just has so much history doing that. I think what could add, what Mark Strong could bring to this is that Mark Strong is known for playing people who are kind of cold and calculated. Like, again, his character Kingsman is a good guy, but he's still calculated. He still has a calm demeanor, but he can mess you up if you mess with him. And again, with
the villain from Shazam. Like, imagine like seeing this guy who's just calm and collected and kind of sinister, and with him playing Judge Doom, and like near the third act, like automatically he switches to a completely different character, this zany, murderous cartoon character. It'll put people off edge because when he's calm and collected, you know he can snap. You know he's at this level of performance right now, but if he snaps, you don't want to be near him. And
yeah, and I feel Ray Fiennes is the same thing in Kubo and the Two Strings. He kind of like as a character that kind of grows into a villain, or you really see like what his true colors are. I just like thing with like other problem with Mark Strong. I just think he in the film is really meant to be obvious who did this to Marvin Acme. I feel like Mark Strong is literally like point right here. So like it is like he did it. Oh, it's over. The end.
I mean, that's the point, though. That was kind of the point. Even the original movie. It was very obvious. Like arrows were pointing at Christopher Lloyd. It's like he's a villain. He's a bad guy. I mean, they were
the filmmaking.
They were not shamed. They were not.
Out of all three, though, I just think he's literally the most obvious. Like, I feel like with Jay and Carlo and Ray Fiennes, they can, like, kind of play both sides.
Well, and it's also just, like, with the character of Judge Doom, it's just, it really lies in that quiet, and Mark Strong is just always one, like, even in his good guy roles, he always seems like a rubber band that's pulled very tight, and you are just waiting for the snap to happen, but you're, like, on edge because you're like, I know it's gonna happen, and I think it's just the way that he just carries himself naturally. That's just how he is as an actor, and it works in a lot of things. But for Judge Doom, it's one of those things of like, again, Mark Strong kind of going back to the brute force kind of thing. He'd be like, yeah, I murdered him, and like he wouldn't have like the mystery about it, because I feel like his dangerous quiet is almost like it's still amplified in comparison to somebody like Giancarlo or Ray Fiennes, where it's quiet, and then there's a build-up. I feel like Mark is already at a 10 when you meet him, and I feel like it'd be much harder to build up because he's just, like, on that snap round, like, so quickly. And I will say, like, as much as I love Ray Fiennes, and I know he can go over the top, to be fair, I have the only time I've really seen him kind of be over the top and goofy is in things like Wes Anderson films. And Wes Anderson goofy and over the top is very different than slapstick comedy over the top, which I feel like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is much more in tune with. And with Giancarlo, with doing things like Do the Right Thing, his character in Community, it's one of those things of having more comedy in his background can only help with that slapstick. And I feel like that's why his over the topness fits better with a character like Judge Doom. And Ray Fiennes, while I know he can go over the top, it's just a different type of over the top that I feel like it's like almost there, but like it's not quite in tune with what Judge Doom needs to be.
Yeah, and I feel one more thing with Ray Fiennes, I'll keep arguing this guy until I die, but it was the fact that he brought up Wes Anderson and Grand Budapest Hotel. It's the fact that he could do comedy. I had no idea. Even he's done rom-coms. He even did Made in Manhattan with Jennifer Lopez. I mean, it's a whole comedy. I mean, but he's done it. He has the experience. And also we worked with the Coen brothers in Hail Caesar, and I thought he was hilarious in Hail Caesar. So, but like, it's just, he has the range and just the experience, I feel like, to really get into it and just blend so many different characters he's done, kind of like what Johnny Depp's been doing with a lot of his characters, just really blending everything that he's learned over the years into a character. I feel like what Johnny Depp did with like the Mad Hatter, I feel like just Ray Fiennes, like with everything he's learned over his like really long career that started since the early 90s, he would just really enjoy himself. And I think he would jump at this in a heartbeat, especially after the physical performance he's probably giving in Kingsman, I think it's called. I feel like after he does that, he's like, wait, I get to play a villain again, and I got to kill cartoon characters? Oh my, how do I not do this?
Well, all right. That was a stellar debate for our big bad villain, everybody. Well, starting us off, I mean, yeah, these are all ridiculously good choices. I do like the pick of Mark Strong. I think, honestly, the being too scary, I would have agreed with until I saw Shazam. And while I agree that he is some of the scariest parts of Shazam, for me, the fact that he is essentially, beaten by a 12-year-old in that movie does kind of soften his scariness at least a little bit. So that one didn't rule out Mark Strong too hard for me. But I did agree with the argument against him that Mark Strong seems tough enough that he doesn't need the weasels. Like, Mark Strong's like, nah, I'm just going to get in there and do it myself and kind of take care of it. So I kind of agree with that. With Giancarlo Esposito, I thoroughly enjoy him as a villain, and you're right, he is very good at going comedic with stuff like Community and Do the Right Thing. And he'd be a good villain, but the question that I kept coming back to was like, I know he can do some more high energy stuff, but all of the stuff where I imagine him more high energy is stuff from earlier on in his career, and not necessarily some of the more modern stuff. And when it came to Eric's argument for Ralph Fiennes, I liked the argument there. He was good. He was quite scary. He can go big when he needed. I like that you mentioned In Bruges and Wallace and Gromit. Same with Kubo and the Two Strings. The one I'm shocked you didn't mention when it came to his ability to go lighter and more comedic with his voice acting was the Lego Batman movie. Was being Alfred. I'm shocked that one didn't get brought up in there. But honestly, between Wallace and Gromit, In Bruges, and Kubo, the performance in there, at least for me, hearing those and imagining him bringing elements of those into Doom, I liked the visual of that transition a lot. So my vote goes to Eric's choice of Ralph Fiennes. So Johnny, who are you thinking?
I'm gonna have to say that while Mark Strong and Ralph Fiennes are super great choices, I'm gonna have to go with Giancarlo Esposito. Mark Strong, he just hasn't super wowed me in the gravitas that I think that it takes for Doom. And while you mentioned that he does get wound up, I can see that wind up, but I don't know. Maybe I just haven't seen him explode. Maybe I haven't seen that situation happen and the explode for the tune that he would become. Ralph Fiennes, Curtis is kind of right. I just see Voldemort. Inanimate object. It sticks in my brain, but I don't know. I just see Voldemort. So part of the reason why I'm going with Giancarlo Esposito is that because in Do the Right Thing, because he's a fire starter in that one, we know he can access going nuts as a cartoon later. And seeing that pop later is so much more. I think with him, I think Murder Before Your Eyes, I see Dip. When I think of the Dip, I think of the giant buzzsaw and then the Darksaber in Mandalorian. I think the one thing that really sells me is that he has a quiet chill about him, and that's what really does it. And there's this one shot of Christopher Lloyd where he's looking directly at Eddie Valiant with his glasses, and you see a light reflection in his glasses, and all you see is white, and he's a soulless. You don't know what he is, and that's what it is. Eyes are everything in film, and he wears the glasses. He wears the glasses too well for me. Giancarlo.
All right, Matt, who are you thinking?
Sure, absolutely. I thought so. I'm kind of basing this off of if I wanted to keep the original spirit of the film together, who would I pick? I think both. I think Giancarlo is such a talent, such a gem. However, I feel like if I was to put him in Doom in the role of Doom, I think it would have to be a different spin on the material. It would either have to be a more dark kind of thing. He's very spooky. He can be absolutely not. But to me, I think that audiences right now are so tied to that's Gus right there. One of the greatest villains of all time. So if it was a different approach, I think I would pick Giancarlo. Mark Strong, I will admit I don't have the most knowledge about him. Obviously, can I say it? Obviously, the R-rated superhero movie, fantastic. Killed in that, a few other things, and I definitely can see him in the trench coat, in the Thing. But when I'm thinking who's going to be flying around a warehouse with giant swirly eyes, I think Ralph Fiennes has it. I think that's the perfect level of just oh my gosh, I don't want him to. I don't want to meet him in any alley, daylight or night or dark or whatever. But definitely like just I think he can play both very well, and I think he can just go crazy at the end. So Ray Fiennes is my pick.
All right, and Nicole, who are you thinking?
Okay, there. So this is, I was still trying to even figure it out even right now. I can see them all. What I did want to say that when you guys were arguing about Ray Fiennes being Voldemort, Christopher Lloyd, he was Doc Brown already. Like that's, I feel like in the 80s, Christopher Lloyd, he was seen as Doc Brown. So, people can break away, people can, and they may still be looked at as that certain character, but they are still capable of doing something different and still being viewed as that character as well. And then for the argument about Giancarlo being too busy, I don't necessarily agree with that argument either, because there are so many actors in this industry who not only act, direct, they have so many projects going on at once that they are capable of doing multiple projects at once. We don't know their filming schedule. We don't know when this is gonna, when it would be created. And if it is on the, the down period, there's a name for it, but my brain just like, where they're not filming for television. So we don't have a clue. And I'm just still trying to decipher on who I want. Thank you. Hiatus. Hiatus. Hiatus is the word that I was looking for. Yes. What's the vote? Like, is my vote necessary? Like, this is just really hard for me to figure out.
If you are curious about that, I don't know if I'm allowed to necessarily break down the voting at this point, but depending on who you vote for, it could either win it or it could tie it. It really depends.
Okay.
So no pressure.
Freak. Okay. I'm really sorry, you all. I'm just truly just trying to picture the glasses on, or the sunglasses on Judge Doom right now. And I think that I think that the look of Giancarlo and the quirkiness that I feel like he could bring to the character, I think I'm going to go with Giancarlo. Did I just tie it?
Yep, going with Giancarlo Esposito, tied it up. So if we are breaking it down on that, that means that it goes to Curtis. So Curtis, choosing between Giancarlo Esposito or Ray Fiennes, who do you think is a better fit for Judge Doom?
I'm just gonna go ahead and Giancarlo. I mean, come on. This is the guy I was afraid of debating against. I mean, what Sakura said in Jumanji, like, need we say more? Like, how could you not? I mean, he just has that presence, man. He has that Judge Doom presence. Yeah, I would love to say what Jessica said in the private chat, but I can't because of the sake of the show. But yeah, he's that awesome. When you see him in Breaking Bad and when he's in The Mandalorian and now with The Boys, like, he just rocks the villain role. He just owns it. So I could see him playing this role like in my head. So yeah, Giancarlo Esposito is my favorite.
All right, well, breaking the tie, that means Giancarlo Esposito is our new Judge Doom. All right, and for our next round, we're going to be jumping into one of the most lovable families of Toontown, the Rabbits, with Jessica and Roger. Now, Jessica was originally voiced by Kathleen Turner. She's the promiscuously drawn and attractive wife of cartoon star Roger Rabbit, who acts as the femme fatale of the story. You never quite know where she is going to end up until the third act, when she's helping Roger or if she's against him. It's heavily implied that she's passionately and desperately in love with him. You can always kind of tell where she stands. Roger, on the other hand, is voiced by Charles Fleischer. He is the titular star of the film. He's wacky, funny, clumsy, yet loved cartoon rabbit is the husband of Jessica and is framed for the murder of Marvin Acme. He seeks the help of Private Eye Eddie Valiant, a detective who once went on cases for Toons to help clear his name. So, as we are working on through this, let's say, Curtis, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Okay, so for my Jessica Rabbit, the actress I'm choosing to voice Jessica Rabbit for this 2020 Who Framed Roger Rabbit is Scarlett Johansson. Now, with someone like Scarlett Johansson, she's just, I think, in my opinion, she just would be perfect casting for this character, Jessica Rabbit. She has the voice, she has the demeanor, she has the tone down, she has that finesse. You won't see Scarlett Johansson at all in the movie. We'll just hear her voice. But Scarlett Johansson has one of those iconic, just really raspy, seductive type of voices that just like gives you the goosebumps and just makes you anyone really, no matter where you sway, makes anyone like attracted to her. And on top of that, she has a really good singing voice as well. I mean, she did, I don't know if she still does, but she had her own band. There are a couple projects where she does sing, like in the animated movie Sing, and she has a with her raspy voice, her singing voice is not bad at all. And there's a scene where, as Jessica Rabbit, she does sing. But even though in the original movie they had a different singing voice from Kathleen Turner, still, or give the actors more credit if she did both the acting and the singing. And I think this is a role that Scarlett Johansson would have fun with, because it's just, despite the way Jessica Rabbit is drawn and the way she seems to be portrayed, it comes off on people as demeaning, but Jessica Rabbit will hold her own. She's clearly independent, but she still loves her husband. She's independent. She could take care of herself, but she has a devotion and loyalty to her husband, this love for him that's just unbreakable. And I think this, again, would be a type of role that Scarlett Johansson would have a lot of fun with, especially getting a chance to voice a cartoon character like this. And with Roger, I am choosing Alan Tudyk. Now, Alan Tudyk is known as one of the voice acting kings right now. I mean, we're talking about Harley Quinn when he voices the Joker, and he also voices Clayface. And again, like Josh Gad, Alan Tudyk has a great relationship with Disney. He did voices for Wreck-It Ralph as King Candy. He did Frozen as the Duke of Wesselton. He did Big Hero 6. He was a voice in Zootopia. He's the chicken in Moana. So again, he has those connections with Disney, and Disney already trusts him. And he's K2SO in Rogue One, the Star Wars story. So yeah, and Alan Tudyk, it has that talent. He can come up with many voices to play characters. He came up with his own type of voice for the Joker. He came up with his own type of voice for Clayface. For King Candy, he just did the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. And I think Alan Tudyk just has that talented actor who went to Juilliard to come up with a distinct voice for Roger that's close to Charles Fleischer. So for Roger Rabbit, Alan Tudyk. For Jessica Rabbit, Scarlett Johansson.
I understood that reference, Curtis. All right, let us move on to Erik. Who is your choice?
God, Curtis, those are excellent choices. Oh my God. Let's start with Jessica Rabbit. My choice for Jessica Rabbit is Michelle Pfeiffer. What I would do to hear Michelle's sexy Catwoman voice again? Anything. She can sing. Just watch Hairspray when she sings Miss Baltimore Crabs, or her performance in Grease 2 that many people have not seen, which is a shame. Her opening song is covered, so she can sing that. Her name is still around, hopefully with an expanded role in the MCU later on, but her career goes all the way back to the 80s with a role in Scarface, and then her breakthrough performances like in Dangerous Liaisons, or of course Batman Returns. She has voice acted several times before, and one of her most memorable was as Moses' wife in Prince of Egypt. I'm glad I got to say that title twice today. I can talk all day about a career, but in this role, we're looking for the voice. She has the talent and the range and the singing, and of course, her sexy alto voice to put better use just to play Catwoman again, but I can already imagine her saying, "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." I can see her pulling that off. She's been doing it for many years in a lot of films, but I think it would be music to our ears to hear her say that in every role she's done. For Roger Rabbit, I'm choosing Taika Waititi. This man voice acts and is rarely recognized in a lot of his voice acting performances. And it's funny enough, I can't believe I'm making this reference, but it's his performance as Adolf Hitler in Jojo Rabbit is why I choose him for this part, because he took that role to a place I didn't expect him to, which was over the top. And he made Adolf Hitler a cartoon character. So if he was willing to just animate Adolf Hitler like Roger Rabbit and just do that, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. He was like an animated character in that film to me, and as like an imaginary Adolf Hitler. So I think he could pull that off as Roger Rabbit. And he's voice acted many times, especially as Korg in Thor Ragnarok. And in Rick and Morty, he was Gluty. But if he wants to like be like a starring presence like he was in What We Do in the Shadows, he can do that as a klutzy vampire. And especially Roger Rabbit is a total klutz, so he gets to play an animated klutz and just bring his vocal performance to it. And of course, how could we forget IG-11 in Mandalorian? For a robot, we learned to love him as it went along. Just like Roger Rabbit, we love him immediately. Same thing with Korg, we kind of love him immediately. So I feel like we could grow with Taika Waititi as the character, and just he knows how to bring like those emotional beats and have a lot of fun with it, but also make us cry like he did in Mandalorian. So again, Taika Waititi for Roger Rabbit and Michelle Pfeiffer for Jessica Rabbit.
All right. Well, Jessica, who are your pitches?
My pitch for Jessica Rabbit is Stephanie Germanotta. Does anybody know that name off the top of their head? Yeah, it's Lady Gaga. Now, the reason why I wanted to go under Stephanie Germanotta is kind of like what Nicole said earlier. Kathleen Turner, she wasn't on the poster for this. She went uncredited for it. And I feel like, yeah, Lady Gaga might be a name to draw people into seats, but going under Stephanie Germanotta, this could be her way to kind of step outside of the Lady Gaga persona so that we can just focus on her work as a voice actor. If you've heard her speak in interviews, if you saw A Star is Born, you know that she just has a natural, like, husky, smoky, sultry kind of voice. And she might not have a whole ton of acting that we know of under her belt. She did go to school for acting. She was pursuing a career in acting before she turned to music, which she was ultimately just as talented in. Although in the original one that doesn't exist, Kathleen Turner didn't sing for Jessica Rabbit, she could in turn sing for her. And if you look at her work with Tony Bennett, she's really known for those like jazzy lounge singer kind of songs. And she can do it and do it seamlessly. But even if you look at her work in her music videos before she did big budget acting projects like American Horror Story or A Star is Born, they're like art house films. They are short films in and of themselves. They're not just like, oh, here's this for this song. She has a story with it. And if you look at the story arc between her projects of Telephone and Paparazzi, she's getting revenge on a boyfriend who tried to murder her. And there's a scene where she gets her revenge on him. She calls the police, and all you hear is her husky, smoky voice just saying, I just killed my boyfriend. And Jessica Rabbit is just one of those kind of femme fatale kind of characters, especially when you don't really know what she's up to, that Lady Gaga or Stephanie Germanotta, that she can do with her voice. She could portray that very well for the character. For Roger Rabbit, the choice is, if Alan Tudyk is one of the kings of the voice acting community, this man is a god of the voice acting community. It is Seth MacFarlane. I think Seth would be a really good choice for Roger Rabbit, not just because he's a very talented voice actor, but because he knows this time period backwards and forwards. A lot of the characters that he based on voice-wise for things like Family Guy and American Dad are based off of his knowledge of old radio shows from the 30s and 40s. And that's why they kind of had like the fast talking, high waisting kind of voice. If you look at things like Quagmire, if you look at Sidney Huffman from American Dad, which was a persona of Rogers, if you look at him in a Looney Tunes bit where he plays Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd goes a little bit too hard on rabbit hunting season, he can do great cartoon voices, but he can also do things kind of like Rachel Brosnahan, where it has to be a certain cadence with how you speak in the 40s. He can do that because he has the knowledge of it just in his personal life, but he also brings it forward in his work that he can try a variety of different types of time period roles within the 40s just for this one character until he finds one that fits it perfectly. So again, the choices for this one: Jessica Rabbit, Stephanie Germanotta, and Roger Rabbit, Seth MacFarlane.
All right, debaters. Let's hear your further arguments.
Okay, so also because Seth MacFarlane, as much as I really like him, I think because again, this movie's almost going to be exactly the same as it was in 1988. So there's not going to be hardly any changes. I think when you try to tame Seth MacFarlane, I think that goes that I think that doesn't work too good, because I mean he was allowed to be a little raunchy when he was hosting the Oscars, but he was a little bit more tame than he usually is, and I think that doesn't work to his benefit. And if this is going to be a Disney movie that's PG, hard PG, PG-13. I think with Seth MacFarlane, you're gonna limit it, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I feel like with this, especially, we have to think of the time period. So yes, even though we might not be changing anything to the script, this would not be a PG movie by today's standards. It would definitely be definitely PG-13. And with Seth MacFarlane, unless we forget that Fox is now under the umbrella of Disney, they've had to cut back a lot. He knows how to work with censorships because he has things that are on TV, like Family Guy and American Dad. So he doesn't go full R like he does in things like Ted or A Million Ways to Die in the West. That's when he kind of gets a creative license. But if he's working with Disney money, it's kind of like working with a network studio head, where it's like, you have to limit yourself to some degree, especially under an umbrella of something like Disney. And this is actually something I think he would flourish in, because it's not only the time period he loves, it's also animation, which is, at the end of the day, his heart and soul. He literally lives and breathes animation. So I think that he could actually bring good insight into what he needs to for a cartoon character, not just a cartoon character, but a cartoon character that's set in the world of the 40s, which is another time period that he lives and breathes for.
And I have no doubt that like Seth MacFarlane knows this decade and has like an encyclopedia knowledge of it. I just
feel like all of our choices do.
I don't think Seth MacFarlane. I don't think he kind of fits with the character of who Roger is. Roger is a sensitive, happy-go-lucky, warm dude. Like when you see that he's paired with Jessica Rabbit, it's odd at first. But you get why they love each other, because throughout the whole movie, people are catcalling and whistling Jessica Rabbit as he as an object. But it's like Roger sees Jessica as someone with a heart.
Do we not see that with Peter and Lois on Family Guy, though? Are they not just a human, more adult version of that, where everybody wants to get with Lois, and they're like, why is she with this guy?
What I'm trying to get at is that Seth MacFarlane is a good improviser, and when he improvises, he comes up with a lot of good bits. And when he tries to improvise some like innuendos and some bits for Roger, I don't think hardly any of them are going to come through, because again, this is a character who doesn't go too raunchy or too adult. I mean, Roger's an innocent. And then with Taika Waititi, I love Taika Waititi too. I think his delivery, his performance will be too slow for Roger Rabbit. Roger is very energetic, very out there, very zany. I think Taika comes off as a little too subtle, a little too composed. What he does and what we do in the shadows, and his performance as Horg and Thor Ragnarok, and even as
Those were subtle. I mean, he prefers like those subtle parts, but it was his role as Adolf Hitler. I mean, I think like that was when he went over the top at times, like really over the top, and that was just through his movements, but his voice as well.
But
Like he was willing to get into it.
I think he was still subtle for the most part. He did go over top some moments, but it was more in his actions and not his line delivery. So yeah, I just think Taika would be a little bit slow. But as with Alan Tudyk has he has a wide range of what he could do with his voice. And he could play he could play characters who are like straight men. He could play zany characters. He could play intimidating characters. He could play wacky characters. I mean, dude just has a range.
Yeah,
I will say that with Alan Tudyk, I feel like he'd go too much like King Candy, which I don't need to see King Candy
we would
again.
Hear that.
Yeah, and I feel like it would be too hard, especially with a character like Roger. And like, I get that we have to try to imagine that the movie was never made, but if you compare the two voices, they are virtually the same. And
I mean, he's a world-class
yes, I know that he can do other voices.
He can do like those those voices well, but it's like it's the impressions. Very good voice actor, but I think he will want to stick with that, especially if he's playing a rabbit. It's not that far from really what King Candy is.
Yeah, especially with it being a Disney project. And as much as I like love and worship the ground that Taika walks on, the only concern I might have for him, I do agree that I think he could match energy very well with it. I have not heard him do an Americanized accent quite yet. I always either hear like the German accent he had in Jojo Rabbit or his regular accent, like what he has in oh sorry, I had it and then it left. Korg as in Thor Ragnarok, or his accent as his character in The Mandalorian. That would be the only issue I have, because we have to remember that yes, it's a cartoon character, but they also live in Hollywood in the 40s, and in the 40s they were very all about that mid-Atlantic accent for any voiceover work, any acting work. It's like it has to be a voice basically without much of an accent, especially if they're a big character. And I just haven't seen that from Taika yet, and it might just take a little bit more voice acting roles to kind of see if he can feel out that accent. I just haven't seen it from him yet, and I feel like it'd be a big roll of the dice to have it as such a main character. He's the title character of the project, and just hope that he can pull off not just an Americanized accent, but an accent from the 40s as well.
So when they cast voice actors for movies or for TV shows, they don't. Of course, you don't have a set to work with, a live environment. You don't have costumes or props to work with. All they have is do recording groups. So what you do when they audition voice actors, that they give them like a sheet, like a model of what the character looks like, what the description is, what the background is, and from there the actor kind of chooses what type of performance you go with. And I think Alan Tudyk has a talent for that, because if you say, okay, Clayface, he's a villain, yes, but he's a thespian, he's an actor, and that's how he came up with that voice for Clayface. He is a character who is obsessed with the craft of acting. Joker, he's this narcissistic, murderous, homicidal maniac. I mean,
Mark Hamill
don't try to do what other people do, just make it your own, and that's what Alan Tudyk did. When Alan Tudyk saw like the drawings and models of King Candy, it kind of had like a Mad Hatter vibe to it from Alice in Wonderland, the original one. And so like, I'm gonna channel Ed Wynn by doing this. And I think if you tell Alan Tudyk what you're looking for with Roger Rabbit, like he's like a mix of like Bugs Bunny, but kind of has a little of Daffy Duck with him, kind of has a little of Woody Woodpecker in him, kind of has a little bit of like Tex Avery in him. I think you could probably get to as close of what Charles Fleischer did with the role.
Yeah, but I feel like though with Alan Tudyk, he likes those smaller, juicier roles, something he can have even more fun with. This would be a great challenge for him. I think he'd do a great job, but I feel like he just would prefer like even like the Taxi Cab. He would want just like even like a variety of performances, not just the one. Kind of like
Charles. I feel like he'd even have fun as Baby Herman.
Baby Herman, I think he would even be fantastic.
Here's the fun fact. Charles Fleischer did not only voice Roger Rabbit,
he
also voiced Benny the Cap. So if they wanted to give Alan Tudyk another role other than aside from also being Roger, they could do that as well.
But you could also do that with Seth MacFarlane. He does that week by year after year after year on 3 different shows, and it does not sound like the same person. With Alan Tudyk, yes, he is very talented, but I don't know if it's just because of my personal ear. I can tell that he does the Joker and Clayface on Harley Quinn. Like, I can tell when he does multiple ones. With Seth, unless you know him by his roles, it literally sounds like different people. The fact that he could be Stewie, Brian, and Peter don't sound like each other talking, but he can harmonize when they have musical numbers, and nobody can tell that they're not 3 different people. I feel like that does say something to his talent. And that is something to think about if we're doing something like that.
And then about Jessica Rabbit. We kind of,
all great choices.
My only thing I gotta say about Michelle Pfeiffer is that with Michelle Pfeiffer, I don't know if she could still probably, if she needed to sing a song, if she could still probably carry a note. I don't know, because she hasn't done a role where she had to sing in a while. I mean, Hairspray was, I think,
9 years ago.
Well, and let's be honest, she wasn't
14 years
the
ago.
best of the singers in Hairspray. She held her own, but out of all of them, it's kind of like, I think that's why she only had like really.
And also, that was the character too.
That's
character
true.
only has 1 song.
And
Great job.
with Stephanie Germanotta or Lady Gaga, I don't know what I'll call her. They're like flip flop. I think she was great in Star is Born. I just think compared to someone like Scarlett Johansson, I think her performance, Stephanie's performance might come off as a little too straight, a little too dry, where Scarlett Johansson can make the performance dry as Jessica Rabbit is kind of has a straight way of delivering her lines, but still deliver a little bit of impact to it.
I feel like with Stephanie, with her, yes, she is more well known for being a singer, but I think that's actually a point in her corner, because yes, singing and acting are 2 different things, but she knows how to use her voice. And since with here, we're not seeing her in person trying to embody this character, she can still use her voice to her advantage. And especially since she just has, kind of like Scarlett, she has a natural kind of smoky, husky voice to it, but she's also, she pursued acting and singing, and they kind of went hand in hand. And of course, we know her as this huge like music superstar, but she uses her voice, and she has one heck of a voice to boot, the PG way to say it. And it's that femme fatale that she kind of brings that energy in, not just her speaking voice, but also her singing voice.
I feel like Michelle can do that. She's made a career, especially out of the femme fatale type of voice. Like, I mean, a lot of characters she's played, but she just has that wide range. Like, it can be femme fatale, or it can be, but she can, I guess she just has that really sexy drawl, that type of voice that you just, like, you really just start drooling over. Just her voice. She doesn't really necessarily need to like be Catwoman again, but she can find a way to make it her own. And she held her own, but she only has to do that one more time for this movie. And the fact they don't have to look for another singer, it will take them time. Not someone. Lady Gaga might want another song or 2. I don't blame her. She might want another song or 2. And it's so hard to argue against ScarJo. Honestly, it's so hard to argue against both of them. But I guess all I could say, I feel like just Michelle Pfeiffer, if she wants to go uncredited, I feel like she will. Even like being part of something like the MCU, it's a pretty small role she has, but it's not like a role where she has to be on the cover of the poster. I mean, she'll even work with Tim Burton again. Even she did it with Dark Shadows in 2012, but she worked with him again. But she'll work with like a wide range of people And I feel like if she wants to go on credit, I feel like she would do it. So it's not like a role that's not call attention to itself. I think like she'll make it her own and be like, wait, at the very end, that was Michelle Pfeiffer. Good for her. It's good to hear her voice again.
Good for her.
All right, y'all. That was one stellar round. It makes sense. We're hitting one of the most important couples of the main film. So I'm going to start off going through looking at the choices for Jessica Rabbit. I'm going to start off with Curtis's choice of Scarlett Johansson. I liked your point of like how she has the voice, the tone, the demeanor, how she can act and sing, but also have some fun with it. Make a good impact with some of those dramatic moments, but also kind of tweak the comedy and make that work for her. Erik, I liked the point that you made about not only the good Catwoman voice working really well for someone like Jessica Rabbit, but also, like, I will admit, I had forgotten that Michelle Pfeiffer had done Grease 2 and Hairspray. So the fact that she can actually sing, okay, cool. That's a very good point in her favor. Also I liked the sexy drawl. I was like, all right, like that's a particular thing where it's like, all right, giving Jessica a way to speak that kind of works with that. I think works. And then Jess, your arguments for Stephanie were really, really good. I liked, how she started with acting and then kind of wanted to transition to music later. The fact that she does a lot of lounge tunes with Tony Bennett, I think is a big point in her favor. And a couple of different things that she's done over her career. She has rocked that femme fatale vibe and has a stellar voice. So between those and the arguments, I would have to go with Stephanie Germanotta for Jessica Rabbit. And when it came to Roger, Roger's a very hard one to put in here. I'll kind of just start at the top. Curtis, your arguments for Alan Tudyk were again very, very good ones. I liked that bringing up the range of performances that he does, how he can be the straight man, he can be wacky. I do understand the worries about the King Candy vibe. I can understand that being a potential worrying criticism about it. Erik, with going into Taika, bringing up that his performance as Hitler was a glorified cartoon. Yeah, I mean, that is accurate. It is a 10-year-old's version of that person. So he is more over the top, more a cartoon. So I can see that. He does bring heart to characters that you wouldn't expect, like his character from The Mandalorian. But there's an argument that was made that might be against him, that he sometimes plays things too subtle, and his comedy is very much on patient delivery and kind of just the awkwardness of that. And then Jess, your argument with Seth MacFarlane, how he knows the era, he knows that style of Hollywood. He could pull from a lot of the different people and styles of that era to kind of make the feel of this character. But honestly, I know there was a lot of worry about the King Candy vibe when it comes to Roger, but as weird as it is, I had forgotten, it was like the Clayface connection, and imagining the bombastic, sometimes overly theatrical delivery of like, I can give you stars, like that kind of delivery with some, like a lot of those to me feels like it could make a really fun Roger. So if I was going with the votes, it would be Stephanie Germanotta for Jessica and Alan Tudyk for Roger. So move on. Matt, who is your choice?
Very fun. I'll try to keep it a little shorter than my other ones where I just ramble on for a little bit. But gang, super fun round. This is great to listen to. I think the main thing that really won me is just Gaga is a character already, kind of, and especially mentioning like that telephone video. Mwah, mwah, mwah. So I know that we all know that she definitely can go so over the top, but also, y'all, she's done noir before. She was in Sin City 2, A Dame to Kill For, and arguably, or definitively, the best part of that movie. So, and I know she can kill it. Obviously, she's gonna murder it with the songs. Her voice is so raspy. You can play that so well. So my vote's gonna go to Gaga. And then also, I love I love Taika. I love Seth. I think both of them can do amazing things and amazing voices. However, I do think Alan Tudyk could just nail this so hard, and especially when you guys brought up like Benny and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I think he could do most of these voices very, very well. Anytime that I see him in anything, I always like for me, for my ear, I always forget it's him, and it's always just a treat to see his name up in the credits. So those are my two. Same, Stephen Gironamana and Alan Tudyk.
All right. Well, Nicole, who are your votes?
And it sucks because I'm such a big Scarlett Johansson fan, and Michelle Pfeiffer's rendition of Catwoman is just rock star status. But Jess's points about Stephanie Germanato, it resonated really well. Honestly, it was her opening argument that initially hooked me. She purposely took her name out of Lady Gaga, gave her her actual birth name, and that honestly resonates with the original, with the non-credit with Kathleen Turner. And it's just, I feel like Lady Gaga could easily be like, it's okay, I don't have to be in the limelight. I would like to use my regular name. I don't need Lady Gaga to fill the seats. I want the talent to fill the seats. And I know her from, I fell in love with her in American Horror Story. Her as Countess, like, she killed it. I think she is a very good actress, and we all know she can sing. So her for Jessica Rabbit. When it comes to Roger, this was extremely difficult. So difficult. I would pick Taika all day, any day, but just the range and the characters and what I know Seth can do, for Roger, I'm going to go with Seth MacFarlane.
All right, then. Johnny, who are your picks?
So, when it comes to Jessica, ScarJo, and Pfeiffer, they just don't super. They're too super, in my opinion. That's why I'm gonna have to go with Germanata, because it's not about the name, it's about the skill. Like, she can throw down with the best of them, play this character noir style, Sin City style, like Lady Gaga all the way. So Lady Gaga for Jessica, and for Roger, this was so hard. What kind of a guy comes to set in the costume just because he's voicing them? Like, Fleischer's a weird dude, and I think you kind of have to be a kind of weird dude to do this. But at the same time, there's too weird, you know. But when you think of Alan Tudyk and you think of Seth MacFarlane, they can play any of them. They could play any of them, no problem. They could play Benny. They could play Baby Herman. But my money has to go to Taika, just because of the heart. In all honesty, like, the man that gave us, I mean, this may be a director thing, this may be a this or that thing, backwards and forwards, who knows? But the Wilder People, The Hunt for the Wilder People, there's something genuine in that movie. The kind of person that tells that kind of story is the kind of person who really wants to get things right with his wife. And I think that even if he's starving to make people laugh by being wacky, that's sure this way or the other, but I'm just reading him as a genuine person. So I'm going with Taika.
All right. And with the votes tabulated, well, for Jessica Rabbit, it is a clean sweep across the board for Stephanie Germanotta. And for Roger, with a 2-1-1 split, it'll be Alan Tudyk as Roger. All right, moving into our next round, we have the lead of our film, Eddie Valiant, originally played by Bob Hoskins. The main character, and he's the gumshoe Private Eye, who takes on the case to clear Roger's name in the murder of Marvin Acme. He has a tragic past that leads to the prejudice of Toon, starting from the very beginning of the film. Gets a little bit deeper as he gets into the case. It's more of a fun-loving, with Toon-loving side of Eddie, begins to be revealed as the film goes on. So, Erik, who is your choice for Eddie?
My choice for Eddie Valiant is Carl Urban. If anyone is watching The Boys right now, he is absolutely excellent on that show. He screw up really looking for redemption, and comedy and drama chops are like literally put to the test in this. And everyone makes fun of him and gives him a lot of, I guess I could say crap. But yet he keeps going. He just keeps trying, and like he's just like Eddie Valiant. I feel like if you take out all the vulgarity to his performance in that show, all the horrible words he says to people without caring, he's Eddie Valiant. And like he's played a couple of characters that you kind of grow on over time, like he did in Thor Ragnarok, like with the redemption type of character. And one of my favorites of his was in A Lord of the Rings, disgraced general who saves the day right when you need him. And he has starred in a movie before, and it is one of my all-time favorite action movies of all time, called Dread. I knew you. He does not show it. So before there was a Mandalorian, there was a Dread where he does not show his face the entire movie, yet we still sympathize with him. So we pulled that off. And Star Trek, he perfectly embodied Hank McCoy. And like comedy and drama were perfectly fused together. And I feel like that's what he can do with this character. But he's had a wide range of playing a lot of dramatic parts, but adding a little bit of humor to them, especially like he did in Red. When he plays like a character we kind of grow on. It was kind of like a small character, but he made it feel much bigger. And he's willing to be on two different shows like he was for Hercules and Xena because they were in the same world when he played Julius Caesar on the same show. But it's just, he commits. He's even willing to be in different worlds like he was in the Riddick movies. He's willing to try different things, and he can finally wash his mouth out with soap and play in a kid's movie after all the playing The Boys and being messed with and made fun of for so long. He gets to, it's sort of in the beginning, but then he gets that redeeming moment like he has in his entire career. And he needs that starring role. I feel like worked his way up for so long, and he's there. So, and he's around the same age as Bob Hoskins was when he played the role. So I'm like, this is the perfect time for him to play it. So my choice again, Carl Urban for Eddie Valiant.
All right. Jess, who's your choice for Eddie Valiant?
The choice for Eddie Valiant is Bill Hader. Bill Hader, of course, you know him from things like Saturday Night Live, who's in a variety of comedies like Superbad, Hot Rod. But recently he's been known to be going more over to the drama section. He's done dramas like The Skeleton Twins. Of course, he's now on Barry and It Chapter 2. And critics all over the place were saying that he was one of the best parts of It Chapter 2 because he really brought something new to the role, and he had comedic moments, but they didn't overshadow his entire performance. And if you've seen It Chapter 2, you might remember that very cathartic scene at the very end of the movie in the water where he just breaks down. So he seems to be making that transition into doing more dramatic roles. And looking at the character of Eddie Valiant, of course, he is a man down on his luck. He is he's an alcoholic. He is somebody who's haunted by his past. And Bill Hader, like acting chops aside, even just his look, you could totally buy that he is in a failing business. He's dealing with a dark secret, a dark past, and is an active alcoholic. So he just, I think, would bring something new and interesting to the role with his dramatic abilities, but also his slapstick comedy abilities. Lest we forget, of course, he was a staple on Saturday Night Live, where he was very physical with his acting and his comedic acting, which, of course, as the movie goes on, you get towards the end of it, is very important for a character like Eddie Valiant. So, Bill Hader.
All right. And Curtis, who is your choice?
There's only one man who I think would capture the spirit of what Bob Hoskins did as Eddie Valiant in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that is David Harbour, who a lot of you know is Sheriff Jim Hopper on Stranger Things. He's also on Netflix. So, when you look at the character of Jim Hopper from Stranger Things, that is totally Eddie Valiant. He is an alcoholic. He's down on when you see him in season 1, anyways. He's an alcoholic. He's down on his luck. He's skeptical. He's sarcastic. He's moody. He's grumpy. He has all those personality traits of Eddie Valiant. And I think if David Harbour just like channels Jim copper, and channels, even a little bit of Hellboy. I mean, the Hellboy movie he was in was great, but him as Hellboy is the best part of that movie. Even if he channels a little bit of that, he could be it'll be fine. And David Harbour knows how to do some emotional scenes or dramatic scenes when he's telling the story of how his brother died to Roger. He knows how to get personal. He knows how to be intimate. When we see later on in Stranger Things, seasons 2 and 3, when the character gets a really close, like father-daughter relationship with Eleven, and we see that relationship. We see how warm it is, how tender it is, and how loving it is. And we now know that David Harbour could sell those really dramatic scenes. And I can see David Harbour doing that scene where he sticks the boiled egg in the guy's mouth and he's saying, "I don't work for tombs." I think a lot of those lines David Harbour could deliver in perfection in his sleep. So my choice, David Harbour.
All right, well, let's hash it out, y'all.
All right, so David Harbour. He had his opportunity to star in a movie, and what was that movie called? Hellboy. Did not go very well. So I don't know if they'll be looking at him for starring roles anytime soon.
Wasn't it
Yes,
his
he
fault,
probably will
though?
be getting smaller roles and stuff, but will he get another starring role is my real question for a while after what Hellboy was.
It wasn't his fault, though. It was more it was the directing and the story.
He was part of it. He was part of it. It still happened. It's just, if I had anything, because other than that, it is very hard to argue against him. But that point, though, I'm just like, that could still come back and haunt him, is what I'm saying.
There's a lot of actors who did movies that should have killed their careers, and yet they're still working. I mean, after that,
I don't want it to haunt him, but it could. That's what I'm saying.
It didn't. It was horrible.
I love David Harbour, but still, that could go against him.
As much as I like Bill Hader, he's not Eddie Valiant. I don't see it. I wouldn't take him too seriously as Eddie Valiant. I can't see him as, because when Eddie Valiant, he's a mix of the everyday schmo and a little bit of mix of Humphrey Bogart and Cary Grant. I don't see that Cary Grant, Humphrey Bogart side of Bill Hader.
What?
Wait, I kind of lost you there. What?
You cut out. A mix of what?
I was saying that with Eddie Valiant, he has that everyday Joe kind of side to him, and also that side of him that's like a classic film noir actor, like a Cary Grant or a Humphrey Bogart. I don't see that Humphrey Bogart or Cary Grant side to Bill Hader. I could probably see the everyday Joe side to Bill Hader.
One of us chose Gabriel Brin.
I can't see that classic film noir character to Bill Hader. I can't.
Here's the issue that I take, honestly, with both of your choices. They're very talented. The only issue I feel like I have with them is that when we think of Eddie Valiant, Bob Hoskins was 5'6". All of our actors are over 6 feet. However, David Harbour and Carl Urban are both super, super beefy. Bill Hader is very, very slight. And when you look throughout the movie of Roger Rabbit, yeah, Eddie Valiant has a temper and he uses his mouth a lot, but he's kind of pushed around by a couple different characters. And looking at the three of them, the only person I could buy taking being pushed around is Bill Hader, because David Harbour and Carl Urban would just pop him in the face and then move on. And then when you think about the fact that Eddie Valiant worked for, I'm sorry, what?
I was like, on The Boys, he is literally pushed around the entire show.
Okay.
Just saying, he's pushed around at the.
All right, I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen it. But also thinking of the character of Eddie Valiant when you're thinking of design and acting choices, working in a failed business of Valiant and Valiant, and the fact that you're not paying bills, you have no money, you're taking any job that you can. You also have to kind of think of what the character is going to look like. when you're looking at a character like Eddie Valiant, you have to kind of think like it's not going to be the best fitting suit. It's going to be ill fitting. Most of the time it's going to be too big because that's what they can afford. And looking at the 3 actors that we've chosen, nothing is going to be hanging off of Carl Urban or David Harbour, just body type wise.
Well,
with Bill Hader, because he's so lean and so slight, you can see that, and he can kind of bring that as part of the role in the character.
Still the boys.
And I think what Hopper pretty much in Stranger Things kind of, especially in season, kind of lives like Eddie Valiant. Like he lives in this like the shack in the outskirts of now I forgot what the town's called in Stranger Things of that town, and he lives in this
Hawkins, man.
Hawkins, thank you. And he lives pretty secluded, and David Harbour is used to playing these characters who are kind of outsiders, kind of seclude themselves from society and seclude themselves from ever opening up to anybody.
My guy's on the run from the government in the boys.
Cool.
he's like I think he could like use like he's still like but willing to like hide in the shadows and be mysterious, because I still feel like even though we're 2 seasons into the boys, I still feel like we don't really know Billy Butcher that well, but it's a fun ride watching him play that mystery. But it's just he's still a bit of a mysterious character in Roger Rabbit, and since he's used to like getting made fun of all the time and treated absolutely horribly, especially in the scene when those cops are messing around with all the stuff in Acme's place, and the guy makes fun of him for being an alcoholic. Even Judge Doom makes fun of him for being an alcoholic. It's just like he takes those shots and he takes them like just takes them standing. And yeah, he can get a little intimidating, but we already got Giancarlo Esposito, so he gets to face off. I hope he gets to face off against him again like he does in The Boys. So yeah, it might be hard to intimidate our Doom, but he keeps going. That's what I love about all his characters, and especially with his career, it's just he keeps on playing these roles, and whether it's a failed show, unfortunately failed show like Almost Human, he still keeps going, still keeps trying to make time for different
Do you
types
blame
of...
Carl Urban for the failure of Almost Human? Like you blame David Harbour for the failure of Hellboy?
Oh, you had to go there, didn't... Oh, that was...
Well, you went there. I'm sorry.
Fired,
like, let's be
fired.
honest.
And I think what David Harbour could pull off too is that, you know, when Eddie Valiant tries to be kind of like flirty and smooth with Dolores, it doesn't come off too smooth, but it's so natural. It's kind of charming. And David Harbour can do that because, you know, when he's doing his scenes with Winona Ryder in Stranger Things, they come off also as an adorable bickering like married couple that you want them to be together. And when they have their warm moments, you could tell Hopper is not used to these type of moments, and he's kind of awkward, but it still comes off as charming because it's natural. And that's the best thing about Eddie Valiant. When he does and when he says, it's totally natural. It's not
Poor guy got the girl.
It's not forced, or it's not.
Well,
I think David Harbour is good at that.
I feel like kind of going off a point that you had earlier for David Harbour, I also kind of want to fight for Bill Hader in his corner. If you watch It Chapter 2, he is an active alcoholic in that as well. He does not live very well. So he also can live in deplorable situations. And also if we're thinking about like kind of like an awkward kind of flirty love story, again, Richie and Eddie. Richie, of course, was closeted and was obviously in love with Eddie, his best friend. And you can kind of take their bantering and they're kind of like busting each other's chops of like, that's his way of flirting, which there's a lot of flirting like that between Valiant and Dolores, because it's like, I like you, but it's weird because like, you're a girl, but you're not like a girl. Like it's because they're almost on the same level. I feel like he views them almost on the same level professionally, that it doesn't come as easily to just like go out and flirt with. So I think that he can bring to the role not just the flirting, but it's also the alcoholism. And lest we forget, like a big part of the character of Eddie Valiant is his anger and his grief towards his brother being murdered.
Which David
And
Harbour
Richie
totally
in
lost.
It Chapter 2.
Oh,
I know, but I'm talking about Bill Hader right now.
Yeah.
So with Bill Hader, he's done that with different roles, and he can kind of bring that darker side, and he knows how to play well with a sibling type of thing in things like the Skeleton Twins and It Chapter 2. And it's hard because I know because I love David Harbour. I know he could totally do it too. I just feel like he's too intimidating of a figure for a role like this.
Well,
Mine didn't do a kids movie. I would
Bill
agree
Hader-
with you. Mine was in Pete's Dragon. So I mean, he was willing to do a kids movie, willing to turn off all the anger he had in The Boys. It's just he's willing to try, especially with Star Trek. Not the most angry person in that. A little neurotic, but I wouldn't say is like angry and like grief. But if he wants to pull that off, he's been doing that in The Boys still for 2 seasons.
Well, if Bill Hader has to get angry, I think he has to be more expressive. I think when Eddie Valiant gets angry and gets frustrated, you can see it subtly building up. Like when that one guy is like, when making fun of him going on another tune case in the bar, when he's like, who's your client?
Curtis, I'm so sorry you're cutting out and I can't hear your points.
Oh man, I don't know.
Curtis, I'm sorry you kept cutting out and I couldn't hear your points. Could you repeat them?
All right, can you hear me
Sorry.
now? Am I good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, so I was just saying.
Yeah.
When Bill Hader gets angry, I think he has to be a bit more expressive with his delivery and with his emotions. With David Harbour, I think he can do that subtly because Eddie Valiant does that subtly when that guy is making fun of them, saying like, "Who's your next client? Dinky Doodle? Or do you have to find little Bo Peep sheep?" And he sees anger is raging and raging and raging. And I think if Bill Hader had to do that, he would have to overact a bit. With David Harbour, I think he could easily build that up subtly until he gets to his breaking point.
Well, I would say Bill Hader's a bit more subtle in things like Barry, and I think that's why it's kind of like it's a change for him because I think people are expecting him to be over the top because we're so used to seeing him in comedies and things like Saturday Night Live. But you look at projects like Barry, where it's like a complete 180 from what we're expecting from him, that he is capable of it. And Eddie does have times where he has a little bit more explosive anger. It's not the entire time, but he has those moments, and we already know that Bill Hader could achieve stuff like that.
And I can't see Bill Hader being like, I can't, because there's a lot of times in the movie where Eddie Valiant's just shouting at Roger and just like abusing him and just like yanking him by his ears and just telling him like stop it, shut up, sit down. I
Carl
can't
Urban's been
Bill
treating
Hader
Huey on
a lot of that shouting and a lot of that abusive toward Roger, but with David Harbour,
Bill Hader did in Superbad against Seth Rogen's character a little bit. When things were going really, really wrong, he did have explosive anger and really just kind of like verbally abuse his partner along with Michael Cera and Jonah Hill's character. So he has that capability and he's proven that he has that capability. So we know that he can. I feel like with Carl Urban and David Harbour, they're formidable figures.
I think the only thing I said about Carl Urban, because I haven't talked about him too much, is that I think he could be probably just a little too intense, maybe just a little too gravely, a little too tough. I mean that's pretty much all I gotta say.
I feel like it's just he's willing to be subtle with it, especially in Red. I feel like he's a character we do grow to care about as the film goes along. And he spent a lot of time being very intense in The Boys, but it was his role in Pete's Dragon. I feel like he wasn't that intense in that. And even Star Trek, he's on the more neurotic side, but doesn't have like moments of intensity. He gets to be like a smooth talking like doctor, especially when he's in Star Trek in Darkness, when he's talking about who Khan's people are. He was very like subtle with his delivery. Wasn't like trying to be over intimidating like he is in The Boys, but it's the fact that he can do both and he can blend that together very well, being in so many different worlds. I feel like he's the perfect choice for Eddie Valiant.
All right. Oh, that was a stellar, amazing argument for the lead of our film. I'm going to take a little bit longer to collect my thoughts. I'm actually going to push over to Nicole first. So, Nicole, who are you putting in your vote for?
Okay. So, yeah, well done, guys. And lady. Sorry. So I've got a lot of little points here that I will just quickly touch on. So for Erik, for Carl Urban, now I know that makeup and everything, I know it can happen, but just looking at it just on the surface, I honestly think he's a little too pretty to be Valiant, in my opinion. Even though, you know, I have a crush on, you know, David and Bill in their own little quirky ways. Just physically looking at Carl Urban, he's a good looking dude. Valiant, he's not supposed to be the hottest one of the film. And I feel like if he was cast in that role, he would be. For Bill Hader, I can see him in this movie for sure. I just don't know if I can see him as Valiant. I could see him being one of the Doom characters, or even potentially Judge Doom. I think that he has the capacity to do that. But Curtis, he kept winning me over and over with all of his points with David Harbour. He fits the Valiant description. I think his character in Stranger Things definitely was a good segue for this role if it ever did occur. Now, I don't think, you know, height, it's not really a big issue when it comes to this because, you know, Valiant is short, but he's not scrawny. He's supposed to be a character that is a bit out of shape, you know, heavy breathing, like can't run, you know, all of that stuff. And I feel like David Harbour's character, and then just in general, like, you know, he can play that off very well on top of having that alcoholism. And Stranger Things is the biggest thing that I know him in, so that's why I keep bringing that up. And I really liked Curtis's point about how David Harbour's kind of flirty vibe is very similar to Valiant. So with that, I go with David Harbour.
All right. Matt, who was your vote for?
Yeah. Again, yeah, I think all these are really interesting. Yeah, I think when I first saw Carl Urban, it was definitely like okay, yeah, you can. I think you can get a vibe for any of these nice fine fellas. But oh my gosh, does David Harbour not just remind me of Eddie Valiant? So that's gonna be my pick. Short and sweet. Yeah, David Harbour for me.
All right, Johnny, how about you?
Hey guys, I have to keep it short and sweet as well. Great points all around, but I would have to say that you know, Bill Hader, there's a level of excessiveness that just doesn't really like do it for me. Carl Urban, he takes abuse, but like again, too pretty. Valiant is just someone who takes a beating. It doesn't matter how barrel-chested he is. He's a broken down person, and that is clearly so set by just looking at David Harbour's face. You know, like even in the pandemic, when he does the social media, you could read this man exudes what Valiant is. And yeah, no, it's just a working class dude who's up in his arms, and it doesn't seem like it comes too much from Carl Urban or Bill Hader. So I'm gonna have to go with David Harbour.
All right. And when it comes to mine, honestly, I got to mirror the votes of everybody else. When it comes to Carl Urban, I do thoroughly like Carl Urban. As you saw, Erik, I was like, yes, when you mentioned Dredd. But to kind of mirror everyone's thing of he's too pretty, I feel like Carl Urban is the actor you would cast in world if you were making a movie about the murder of Marvin Acme. He's the guy in world that you would cast to play Eddie Valiant. So it's you know, so it's like he works, but he's like the prettified version of Eddie Valiant. Bill Hader, I think he brings a fun vibe to it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think everyone kind of said it. Like Eddie Valiant is someone who you want to root for, but just he has continuously been beat down. And what is that if not David Harbour after Hellboy? I'm looking right here at you, Erik. Don't you besmirch that man for picking a movie that could have been fun. Yeah, so my vote would have to go to David Harbour for Eddie, and that makes it a clean sweep across the board. So that is our new Eddie Valiant. So we move into our final round, the director. Now, the original director was Robert Zemeckis. Now, when he directed this film, he was coming off of back-to-back hits with Romancing the Stone and the original Back to the Future, but he took 3 years off to work alongside Touchstone and Amblin Pictures to develop what, at the time, was the most expensive animated film ever made, with a budget of about $70 million to bring Roger Rabbit to life. Zemeckis brought his usual larger-than-life storytelling to bring Toontown to life, while also never failing to pay attention to the emotional beats like Eddie's grief over his brother. So, as we jump into our final round with director, Jess, who is your choice for this round?
Choice for director was Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane, of course, has a massive background in animation. He is under the Disney umbrella since the buyout with Fox. And he knows how to work real world with animation as well, lest we forget things like Ted and Ted 2. They were using state-of-the-art technology to bring an animated character to life, but also be able to work with actors on the set who are speaking to somebody who is not there. And of course, his background in comedy, it works with that. The fact that he knows the era inside and out, he would bring a great creative direction to his directing style, and he would make sure that everything was time period appropriate and basically make it almost like a love story to Los Angeles from the 40s, since it is an obsession of his. So my choice for director is Seth MacFarlane.
All right. Curtis, who's your pick?
My pick for directing Who Framed Roger Rabbit is James Gunn. James Gunn is known for blending all types of different genres, different styles, different tones, and making it and marry them so wonderfully. I mean, when you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, there's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of wackiness, there's a lot of zaniness in those movies, but at the same time, there's a lot of art, there's a lot of drama. I mean, James Gunn knows the first Guardians of the Galaxy opened. Oh wait, can you hear me?
You cut out for a little bit.
It keeps doing that. All right.
Can you just go right back with your point right before you hit on Guardians of the Galaxy? It just dropped out for a moment.
Okay. Yeah. So as I say, my pick is James Gunn because he knows how to blend all types of storytelling in his movies. When you think about Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, it's funny, it's wacky, it's zany, it's action-packed, but has a lot of heart and drama to them as well. The movie opens up with an 8-year-old, 9-year-old boy seeing his mom die from cancer, and then immediately going to the boy all grown up dancing to "Come and Get Your Love," and it works so smoothly. It transitions so great, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit is also a blend of different types of storytelling. It has a lot of wackiness and comedy and lightheartedness to it, but there's darkness in it. There's murders in it. There's drama in it as well. There are stakes in the movie, and I think James Gunn can portray that beautifully in this type of film. So my choice is James Gunn.
All right, Erik, who's your pick?
Well, I chose him as my Roger Rabbit, but I still took a chance on him for director. Taika Waititi is my choice for the director of this film. This movie is like a variety of genres and subgenres, and Taika has a talent of putting all those genres together as it is, and he's also fearless in taking on challenges. Like Jojo Rabbit was not an easy film to make and not an easy film to market, yet he found a way to make it a huge success, as well as he was able to redefine Thor with Thor Ragnarok. He made a masterful film mentioned earlier called Hunt for the Wilder People, and we also laugh at What We Do in the Shadows, Boy, Eagle versus Shark. But also, if Disney does own this movie, he's already there, because he just did an amazing job with The Mandalorian, directing that final episode, and also he had a big hit with Thor Ragnarok and getting ready to do Thor Love and Thunder. So Disney's like, yeah, if we need to call him, we will. The Roger Rabbit script, it's like a blend of everything we need in a movie, like silly, dark comedy, mystery, action, adventure, a blend of two worlds we didn't think we'd ever see. Taika not only can make like his ensemble cast like game for this, like 100% committed, he can build upon it and find like a way of like get every character a moment to shine like the original movie does. I feel like he wouldn't even touch the original script, just let every actor shine. His brand of humor can blend in nicely to this, as he did so brilliantly with Thor Ragnarok. He made it for everybody. He's just a beyond creative guy. And especially one thing I got to mention, he directed himself when he was in the as Wesley in The Princess Bride. It was amazing when he did 2 cardboard cutouts of Physique and Inigo Montoya. They were both next to him because he knew he couldn't get the actual actors to be there. But he made it work and was just so into it. But he's directing himself. Imagine we can do with all the actors in this film. And he thinks outside the box, and he just jumps into worlds like that. And he just knows how to appeal to a general audience while doing what Disney does best. And he'll sneak some adult humor in there. So I think he'd be a great choice for that. Just hire him, please.
All right. Well, make your points.
All right, I'm going to say it, Seth MacFarlane. I do not think he would direct this movie because I think he would want to take it even further for adults. Especially all the movies he has directed are all for adults. Even the animation and stuff he's done for adults. Just when he had a creative mindset in it, he would rather market it toward adults.
That's what I'm thinking too. Because as I said before, when we were debating him versus Roger, they would tame him, and he would be limited in what he could do and what he could do with storytelling. Another thing, this is how Disney hires filmmakers. They look a lot at their track record, especially if it's like a big IP movie like this. Our Roger Rabbit is still being an original movie, but it still has like IP characters involved in the story somehow, and so it would still be a big budget studio movie with this version.
Yeah. And I mean, you can trust all
Tim
those.
McFarlane has the 210 movies and A Million Ways to Die in the West. Now, despite what our opinion on those movies, the critical consensus and the audience consensus on those 3 is that the people love the first Ted, not so much Ted 2, and really not so much Million Ways to Die in the West. I'm just talking about a consensus of like critics and the audiences, not of our own opinions. But I don't think Disney will be comfortable in hiring Seth MacFarlane to direct this.
Yeah, but
with Taika Waititi, again, I think he has already so much stuff with Disney under his belt. I mean, he's got Thor: Love and Thunder. He's probably going to direct some more Mandalorian episodes, and also there's talks of him doing his own Star Wars movie as well. So I think
hasn't been written yet.
Yeah, and he's already booked with Disney so far.
James Gunn's pretty booked. He's got Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming, doesn't he? But also, it's him being involved. Like, my only thing with James Gunn, I mean, he's an amazing, amazing choice. I love his work. It's just everything that he's done, he was involved with the script. I feel like also like solely involved with a lot of those script, even the Suicide Squad and even both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He was just heavily involved with the script. It's just, will he direct someone else's script is my question for him. And same thing with Seth MacFarlane. He was heavily involved with a lot of the scripts he's done.
I mean, we can say that with all these directors, because all these directors know for writing their own scripts.
But if Thor Ragnarok, I mean, I thought Taika had something to do, but no, he's not credited as a writer. So I'm like, he's done it.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit is why it's so great is because it knows how to blend all types of storytelling. It like what Guardians of the Galaxy does. It knows when's the right time to be funny, when's the right time to be dramatic, when's the right time to be dark. It just knows the exact moments of the film to portray these type of genres, and how long do they have to do it until they have to make someone laugh again, or to make someone feel heartwarmed again, or whenever they need someone to feel scared again. I think James Gunn can do that perfectly.
That's what Taika can do as well. I mean, he did it like literally, it was like a symphony of all those feelings in Jojo Rabbit. I mean, there's moments that make us laugh with like Hitler and the kid, or when he throws the grenade against the tree and it falls back. Usually we wouldn't laugh at that, but for some reason Taika found a way to make it funny. Or he can make us cry, especially some of us. I hope everyone here has seen the movie. I'm just going to say a certain scene that involves shoes. That is one of the most heartbreaking scenes ever. And then he can go to a later scene that makes us feel way better when they're dancing to David Bowie singing German. Like they are having fun. Like it's just the heartwarming moments. I feel like he can do that, but also if he just wants it to be dark, because I mean, it still was a movie about Nazis. So when it got into like the horrible things Nazis did, he didn't hold back. Or if like Thor, like with I feel like Hunter the Wilder People, that can be a movie like where we just love the relationship between Sam Neill and the kid. I feel like we can get that definitely out of Roger and Eddie Valiant, because they have a beautiful friendship. So it's like because they don't like each other in the beginning.
I mean,
Then in One of the Wilder People, it definitely grows.
Roger doesn't hate Eddie Valiant. He wants Eddie to help him. It's like he doesn't have a malice towards Eddie Valiant at all in the film.
But it's like
the whole movie trying to get
friendship. It's like kind of like an unlikely friendship, kind of like in Gran Torino, an unlikely friendship type of movie.
In Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, James Gunn did that with what 5 characters. Five characters who couldn't be any different from each other. We talk about Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Groot. I mean, Rocket and Groot were already clear, but there were different characters from different backgrounds, and James Gunn found a way to make them a family and make them have great chemistry amongst each other.
And then Taika did it with the final episode of Mandalorian. And Thor Ragnarok, a lot of them didn't really like each other, but they still found a way to get along, especially the relationship between Tessa Thompson's character, Valkyrie, and Thor. She did not want to help him whatsoever. By the time they're getting off, heading toward the Devil's Anus, I had to say it. By the time they're heading there.
I'm just saying that
it's just something that grows.
I'm just saying if James Gunn could do it with 5 characters, he could honestly kill it with 2.
I feel like Taika's just made it a thing with 2, especially the friendship between unexpected friendship between IG-11 and the Mandalorian. Just like even in that episode, he still didn't like IG-11, but by the end, he's like, no, and it's just it gets to that breaking point, but it's just something that Taika it's like rule of 2, and he seems to like working with 2 people. And it's something with a growing friendship that literally you're not supposed to expect, but it's just character growth, character development. Taika's just so gifted at that. James Gunn is 2. I just think Taika's just made a habit out of working with 2s, like Roger and Eddie. And all of the voice actors that we talked about this thing just have a small role in it. And characters probably. All of our directors, I feel like, are just very, they're willing to work with anybody. They have fun.
I'll let you guys finish your points, and then I'll make my final points.
All right.
I will say I understand the concern that Seth in his latest career has done a lot more adult geared stuff, but we also have to remember he started in shows that we grew up loving, like Cow and Chicken, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to put him into a box just because of recent stuff that he's done. He is capable of it. I will say all of the directors are talented in their own right. I will say it's great that James Gunn and Taika have a background in doing superhero movies, because obviously they clearly have worked with actors who've had to work with nobody there. I will say though that the majority of those works are done on green screen sets. Even though Ted, yes, is an adult movie, Seth really just kind of showed with that he was able to mix in an animated world within the real world, which with a movie like this is very important, especially because it just adds to the realness of the movie itself. But I completely understand the concerns with him just being known for adult stuff. So, yeah.
All right. Well, very difficult last round as we're trying to figure out the director for this thing. It is always difficult finding that proper balance of comedy and drama. So I'm actually going to pass it off to somebody else first while I'm still trying to get my thoughts together. Matt, why don't we start with you?
Sure, absolutely. Gang, what a fun round. What a fun time. I think that I think everybody basically out of all these directors basically does have some sort of blending CG or animation of some sort with the live action world. I mean, all three of them have done it and successfully many a time. However, what I'm really thinking for when I'm looking for Roger Rabbit, is laughs and heart. And I think that Taika definitely has that just in the bag. I mean, Hunt for the Wilder People is probably like the most pleasant movie ever made. It's just one of those things where it's just like, you want to feel good for an hour and a half. You want to feel just like all warm and tingly inside. Absolutely. And of course could knock out the laughs with that too. So that's probably going to be my pick, is a Taika for director on this one.
All right. Johnny, how about you?
There we go. So a lot of I've only done 2 of these, and I've been on both ends of the Cast of the Future, and I gotta say I don't really spend a lot of time in my heart thinking of track records, and there's a lot to be said about that in the consideration for an actual film. And then and I don't think we have like a budget per se, and we kind of shoot for what we want if the sky was the limit. But my brain, my heart, my show business brain of it all is thinking, who would I spend my money on? And James Gunn, like, he's hot right now. He's doing Suicide Squad. That's great. I can imagine a bunch of like sort of boomer age execs being like, that's good, let's do it. But in my heart of hearts, Seth MacFarlane and James Gunn, they don't cut the mustard for my money. For my money goes to Taika. Again, like we're saying, with Hunt for the Wilder People, it makes you feel good, and that's the kind of tone that I think Roger Rabbit is. It gets tough just as much as any conflict in any story is, but it becomes something that the good guys win in the end. You guys, if you compare this to Chinatown, it's like the noir, spoiler, it probably, most noirs don't end with a happy ending the way that Roger does. And you said it the best when you said it was a symphony of moments. I think that's the best way to phrase something that is audacious as this movie, as Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's a symphony, and it brings all that stuff in that I just didn't see in a James Gunn movie, or I didn't see in a Seth MacFarlane movie. I just do have the soft spot. For my money, it goes to Taika.
All right. Nicole, how about you?
Black Mercer. Sorry. Okay. So I think I'm gonna go with shoot. I'm gonna go with because I know the reason. I know Erik and Jess, they picked Taika and Seth because it was supposed to be a pairing between director and Roger, which makes total sense. And absolutely, if one of them were chosen for Roger, then I would then pick them for director. But for director, I'm going to go with James Gunn, just because I do love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I feel like it's something that James Gunn is really well known for, and it's just very parallel with the previous director, or with the actual director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, James Gunn, he's got the way he directs, it's beautifully done. I'm not saying that negatively on either of the two choices. I'm obsessed with the other two choices, not especially with both of them. But just for this round, I'm gonna go with James Gunn.
Right. This was a tricky round to kind of debate. There were a lot of interesting points made across the board. I liked that. I liked, Curtis's point about James Gunn, how he likes to blend all of the genres. How he likes to get zany, but also do some heavy drama. But he also has like some really good character growth in a lot of his works. With Taika, the fact that he balances comedy and drama, he can be fearless, but also like isn't above like getting resourceful and putting in a cardboard cutout on set if need be, because hey, it would help get the job done. And hits the good notes. And with Seth, I liked the comment or the note that he knows the era would work well with it. Also working really well with shooting in a physical environment and having animated characters there, like he did for Ted. I wish I'd heard a little bit more when it comes to Seth for this last round. But with the choices that were there and with the arguments that were made, honestly, I feel like I have to give it to Taika, because with the different movies that James Gunn has made lately, they're a little heavier on the cartoon, a little heavier on the zany side of it, a little more Toontown, if you will. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit is also really equal parts Chinatown. And I have seen a little bit more from Taika's filmography that shows he can handle that level of drama, like for a more consistent part of the movie. So my vote would go to Taika, which means our choice for director is Taika Waititi.
All right, so that finishes up our debates, and that rounds up our debate.
It looks like our host at the moment is Kurt. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I know it's been cutting out a lot. Can you hear me now? All right.
We gotcha.
Yeah, so it looks like our casting director has been rounded out. For RFK Maroon, we have J.K. Simmons. For Marvin Acme, we have Henry Winkler. For Dolores, we have Rachel Brosnahan. For Judge Doom, we have J. Carlo Esposito. For Disco Rabbit, we have Stephanie Germanotta, a.k.a. Lady Gaga. For Roger Rabbit, we have Alan Tudyk. For Eddie Valiant, we have David Harbour. And as our director, we have Taika Waititi. This is the second Robert Zemeckis film that Taika Waititi has ended up directing for Cast of the Future. How does that happen? It was our first episode, Back to the Future, and now we've come again to Taika Waititi directing another Robert Zemeckis film. It's pretty funny. So, yeah, I love this cast. I love this director. I would go see it. I mean, just on the premise alone, just on the notion alone of doing a live action film, blending in with classic 1940s, 30s cartoon characters, I'd go see this in a heartbeat, especially with this type of talent and with this director, Taika Waititi, doing this a movie, a mystery with cartoon characters. Yeah, I am going to go see this movie. So, and that's the brilliant part of Roger Rabbit is that Roger Rabbit doesn't take place in 1988. So if it took place in 1988, there would be a lot of cartoon characters that doesn't connect with a lot of people. Like it would have like the Ninja Turtles in there, or He-Man, or the real Ghostbusters, like the popular cartoons from the 80s, the Transformers, and not a lot of grown-ups that connect to that. But every generation has grown up with Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, maybe Woody Woodpecker, maybe Tom and Jerry, those type of characters, and a lot of people know who they are and they connect better. So yeah, totally go see this movie. How about you, Logan?
Oh, I mean, that's when it comes to like putting together a movie for something as iconic and classic as Roger Rabbit, it's all about the feel of the ensemble and the feel of the whole cast together. And when I look at the cast that we have, like whether it's Winkler and Simmons, kind of, I can imagine they're bickering together. Like I can imagine them like button heads over animation. I can imagine Rachel Brosnahan and David Harbour sitting at the bar, kind of getting into it together. And I can imagine, Alan Tudyk and Stephanie Germanotta running in terror from Giancarlo as he just has a big old like squirt gun full of dip or something going on. So they're kind of making that work. Like just the whole feel of this cast works really well. It feels like they all capture the spirit of what made the original characters work so well and stick around to this day. So yeah, I would certainly be there opening day to see this movie.
How about you, Matt?
Oh yeah, this sounds like just wacky 80s fun. Like with this level of talent, like it just seems like that weird, hey, we're gonna throw everything in the pot and it's gonna be awesome, kind of like that magic sauce. I feel like this cast would definitely bring it. So yeah, absolutely 10 out of 10. I would go see this.
How about you, Erik? What do you think about our cast?
Well, I'm glad I got to choose Taika Waititi again because I was the one who chose him when we did Back to the Future.
That's true.
But I guess Taika Waititi is my go-to guy for any of Robert Zemeckis' movies that we decide to do. I would definitely see this film. I guess I could say it now. David Harbour gets his redemption after what Hellboy was. You're welcome. He gets to have fun, but also Alan Tudyk gets to have a little bit more fun than his forgotten, unfortunate performance. He was so good in it, iRobot. So he gets to play like the unlikely friend of the detective, but he gets to have more fun and really put his vocal talents to the test. I hope he chooses a more squeaky voice. Giancarlo Esposito is going to horrify everybody. Lady Gaga is honestly, she could just do the motion capture. That's what they decide to do. She is Jessica Rabbit. She'll be perfect. And it's also, I'm glad everyone that we chose for Marvin Acme, you don't want to see any of them die, even though you know what's going to happen. So for the fact that we chose Henry Winkler, you're just like, how dare they kill Henry Winkler? We have to solve this murder. And they think Alan Tudyk did it? Oh my God. And Taika directing this. Again, the symphony of emotion, the symphony of just different moments is going to be there. And everyone, especially J.K. Simmons, I can definitely see David Harbour just holding him down, being like, where's the will? Where's the will? I think David Harbour would be great. Just everyone did an amazing job. And I'm just glad the director was chosen. Thank you.
How about you, Johnny?
I would have to say in 2020, this would be added to my Disney Plus queue like in a heartbeat. I don't mean to be soapbox, but you couldn't drag me to a theater to save my life. I would be more than happy to add this to my queue. And that being the case, like, I can get more comfortable. I can get more comfortable in the security blanket that is what companies try to do, what movie studios try to do with remakes, and the idea that this something like this story will bring me back, and it's added to the queue.
Nicole?
I think the choices are great. I would definitely go see this movie, although it is hard to put the original out of my head. I think the choices are incredible, and all of the cast members and director chosen are extremely talented, and would knock it out of the park.
And how about you, Jessica?
I would. I love most everybody on this docket. Especially I would love to see Lady Gaga kind of have her moment in the sun after A Star is Born acting wise, and I think that this could really help launch her into doing more projects for that. So yeah.
All right, so just to recap on our symbol casting director, one more time, we got J.K. Simmons as R.K. Maroon, Henry Winkler as Marvin Acme, Rachel Brosnahan as Dolores, Giancarlo Esposito as Judge Doom, Stephanie Germanotta, a.k.a. Lady Gaga as Jessica Rabbit, Alan Tudyk as Roger Rabbit, David Harbour as Eddie Valiant, and Taika Waititi as director. So thank you, folks, for joining us in this really epic episode of Past to the Future. Join us next week, where it's October. We get really spooky for the season of Halloween. All of our horror themed episodes will be in October, starting with next week with the classic Alfred Hitchcock Psycho. So that's going to be really interesting. A couple of the panel here is going to come back for that episode. So thank you for watching, and rest of you, please have a good day.